think we're live. But where's Jay? What's going on? Hold on, people. Stand by. Movie discussion pocket dimension where time does not exist, and the only thing that matters is film. I'm Cole. Uh-oh.
Attention! We interrupt a normally scheduled episode of the Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension for a special quarantine episode.
Oh, love it. Oh, you have a mask.
I'm freaking out, man.
You're in your bunker.
Freaking out. I am self-isolating, as I've been told to do.
From an undisclosed location.
But no, guys, welcome to the Movie Discussion Pocket Dimension, where time does not exist and the only thing that matters is film. I'm Cole. That is Jay. As always.
Wait, that's not right.
I know. I said it wrong on purpose. Anyway,
you were close though.
Today we're going to be doing a special episode of Contagion, the Steven Soderbergh film from 2011. I finally made Cole watch this last night.
That's ruining our St. Patrick's Day special.
I'm going to take this off because this is killing me. But
man, we were going to do a double bill of the Crying Game and Boondock Saints in honor of St. Patrick's Day. Not really, but I just mean I think everybody in the world's forgotten it's St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing some green for it because there's no parades, people, and nobody can go out drinking. You're going to drink, stay home. But yeah, so obviously this wasn't the plan, but we thought, current events. So let's do a pandemic style movie. And the big one that a lot of people say is kind of most similar to what's going on in real life right now is the 2011 film Contagion.
I hope it doesn't get that bad.
Yeah, I mean, by that time, the death toll is pretty high. Spoilers.
Any movie where Gwyneth Paltrow dies in the first couple minutes, it's a good movie.
Yeah, so she's like patient zero in this. Which I'm sure is what a lot of people wished was the case here. It's why couldn't Gwyneth Paltrow? I don't hate her that much, but she is an annoying.
But so this was your first watch. I actually saw this back in the theater with a double feature with Drive, another film we've done here on the show. And I actually liked it quite a bit when I saw it the first time, and I enjoyed it when I watched it the other night as well. So what did you think?
This is a movie that I don't remember. I mean, I knew that it existed, that it came out at some unspecified point in time, maybe sometime around 2010, as it turns out 2011. I thought Matt Damon was in it, and that's all I knew. I knew nothing else about it. And I don't know, I never heard anybody talk about it. I never read any articles about it. It just seemed to be a movie that came and went. But as I've done some research for the show, it was a fairly well-received movie and praised for a lot of its realism, saying a lot of the stuff from the stuff about how medical professionals study viruses and that kind of stuff, and also how things like quarantine on a global scale works.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny you brought it up, and I thought I'm pretty sure that's around here somewhere, and it was right on my front page of Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Netflix now gives me a top 10 of the top 10 views in Canada, and this was number 4 as of yesterday. And I was okay, well that's on the nose. Let's watch it. And yeah, Steven Soderbergh, whom I don't have a good relationship with.
Yeah, I know you don't care for Soderbergh, and he's really all over the place with the kind of movies he does.
I mean, I can at least give him some points for that, right? Shows that he's versatile, I suppose.
He did the movie Unsane that was shot on an iPhone a few years ago.
Yeah. Which is, pretty inventive, sort of adventurous.
Yeah.
Trying something new, something different.
Which, yeah, I mean, I've liked a lot of his stuff.
I'm already forgetting. I'll just have to do a quick look here to see his filmography.
So this has really got an all-star cast in it. Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh yeah, ensemble movie, right? Very much an ensemble
totally.
movie.
Matt Damon, Laurence Fishburne, Jude Law. who's the
Didn't you say Kate Winslet?
Kate Winslet, yeah. And did you say Dimitri Martin was in there?
I thought it was. I wasn't sure. There was one of the guys that was working on like the vaccine or whatever looked a lot like him, but maybe I could be wrong.
Oh, you're right. It is him.
It is him. Yeah, I thought so because Dimitri Martin is sort of a very distinctive looking person. So yeah, that's weird. It's not like he's. Yeah, what an odd thing for him to show up in, considering. Let's see. I mean, Sex, Lies, and Videotape was a big deal, and then Out of Sight is sort of a critical darling. Like nobody really seemed to have seen it, but it's actually really well received. Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, which won like an Oscar or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot he did Traffic.
He did the Oceans movies. I like the first one, Oceans 11. I think the sequels are bad. Never saw The Informant, which is another Matt Damon thing. So obviously he and Matt Damon have a bit of a relationship going back to the Oceans thing, being in a few of those. He did Magic Mike, which of course was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, that's an odd one, man.
But so the last, like the newest movie I'd seen of him was Logan Lucky, which I did not like at all. And so Ocean's 11 is really the only one I like. I haven't seen all of these. Traffic has some things I like about it, but a lot of it has to do with like his own, like he writes a lot of these movies too, doesn't he?
I'm sure.
Or at least co-writes. I think he must, because a lot of them have like a feel. Anyway, I'm going to say right off the bat that I don't like this movie either. And it's mostly to do with characters I find flat, bland, uninteresting, and hard to tell apart. And I find that happens a lot in his movies. Like, and he does a lot of ensemble movies, most notably the Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 had a bit of a, it had a gimmick to it, so it was easy. This guy's talent is this, and plus they were big names, but usually I like ensemble movies, and I like movies that show lots of points of view. So this just isn't one I just don't particularly care for how it's executed exactly. But I don't know. I'm not trying to make any argument that it's a bad movie, because it's not, and it certainly is poignant right now. You can understand, I guess, why we were discussing this too. Like we thought, like let's do it because a lot of people are watching it. I wouldn't have been watching it otherwise, or any other. Like the current situation doesn't have me like freaked out or anything, but it also doesn't have me interested in watching like pandemic movies. I'm not like, well, this is the time for that. No, not really. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what do you say? People are crazy.
I said people are weird as shit.
Yeah, weird. Yeah.
But I mean, in a way, I guess it does make a certain amount of sense. But it's not how my own brain works. It's not like, oh, we've got this weird, almost unprecedented thing, lockdown. I mean, we both have some. We're not old, but we both have some life experience, and neither of us have lived through something really that comparable. There have been various outbreaks and things like swine flu, H1N1, but not ones that really affected our day-to-day life in this way. Like, it's just weird that it's like everywhere. Jay and I live quite far apart. There's people in other countries and stuff, and we're all going through it.
Kenny Tarr seems pretty freaked out.
Yeah, well, it's different in some areas. As I've said over like the last week to like anybody who knows me, like, and it's not even a joke. It's just like this doesn't change my life that much.
Right.
I am sort of an introvert. When I work, it's from home. I don't have much of a social circle. I'm not dating anybody at the moment. I live alone. So, I mean, obviously it has changed things for me. I mean, and obviously there were things I like I'm a big hockey fan, and that's gone, just like a lot of sports are gone and things like that. But as far as like what I do with my day-to-day life has not changed a great deal at all. It is interesting, like going out and seeing the way other people are reacting, I guess.
That mask is like fucking my face up. Oh, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I like self-isolate, normally, so it's fine with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me too much. In fact, one of the things, like, being the night owl that I am, and I'm off, like, that's one of the things I like about being out late at night and going to places that are open 24 hours is like there's a 24-hour grocery store not too far from me that I often go to just because I enjoy going there when it's frigging empty. I like that.
Right.
So, yeah, so I don't know. Obviously, this is a tough situation, and we want it resolved. But I'm not going to complain like it's such a big deal. For me personally, it's much harder on a lot of other people, not me. Of course, it can get worse. It can change, and we'll see. But as things are, like, it's more just of an inconvenience for me. Plus, the other thing, of course, is like, I worry about other people, but not myself. I never get sick anyway. Like I'm a low risk individual for this. But this is the other thing. Like the last thing Jay and I will want to do is add to like all the misinformation that's floating around there. So just very quickly, even if you're a low risk person, as far as like it harming you, you can still catch it, and that means you can pass it on to other people. So yeah, so I'm sure we've all seen the rounds of various people tweeting and stuff like that. I remember there was this one that came up about some woman saying, I just ate at like a crowded Red Robin's and I'll do whatever I want, or Red Robin, or that restaurant's called. She's like, and I'll do what I want because this is America. I'm just like, no. Wow, that looks really selfish and terrible.
Yeah, I don't really get that. It's
and some people had or have that attitude, or maybe had it and then wised up after they realized what was going on. Because that's the thing, right? Like even if nobody wants to catch it because it's still really bad. I've had pneumonia, which when I was 9 years old, apparently like its symptoms of how you feel when you have it is kind of comparable to pneumonia. And I remember how much pneumonia sucks. So even if it's something I could shake off like pneumonia, it's still not something I want to get. And the other thing is, of course, you just don't want to infect other people.
Yeah. That's what I'm worried about. I mean, both, my mother is going to turn 70 this year, and
yeah, my father's turning 70 and he's never taken care of himself in his life. And my mother is one of the people with a compromised immune system. She's had a compromised immune system since she was young, actually. So they were supposed to come visit me on April, and I don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, it's like my mom's been like out to the grocery store and shit. I'm like, what are you doing? Stay at home. Like, I'll bring you whatever you need. But she won't listen to me. So anyway. Don't panic, people. That's the biggest thing. Act civilly.
Yeah.
We'll get through this.
Don't panic. Social distancing. Wash the hands.
Wash the hands.
A lot of it is very common sense stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a little sad that like this really needs to be reinforced for a lot of people. But whatever it takes, I suppose. Yeah,
like stay at home if you're sick. I mean, that should be like, you should know to do that anyway.
Yeah. As you're saying before the show, I mean, obviously this has a big negative impact, not just on people getting sick, people actually dying, but also, of course, the ripple effect it has throughout the whole world, jobs and events and the economy and all that. But if there can be like one like positive takeaway from all this, I'm saying is like when it's all over and the risk is gone, like maybe it will just teach us all to be a little more conscientious anyway about like just normal sickness, about, taking precautions, about washing your hands and avoiding crowds if you're sick and not coughing all over the place and stuff like that. So, because I mean, yeah, even if you take away the deadly COVID situation that it is, like it's still good rules to follow just for day-to-day life, just for keeping people healthy.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. So this movie has a fairly similar premise to what's happening in that it's basically something that more or less comes across as like the flu.
Mm-hmm.
Except you wind up kind of dying from it. And I mean, there's lots of things that branch off from it. Because in fact, my favorite story that deals with this sort of setup is probably Stephen King's novel, The Stand. It's my favorite Stephen King novel. And actually, I guess there's a new version of that miniseries. It might come out this year, I think. So I'm really interested in that. I've always liked the 90s one, even though it's cheesy and has a bad budget and messes up a lot of stuff. Always have a soft spot for it. But of course, that one, it's less about that. It's more about the aftermath, and the whole point of that was it had like sort of a supernatural bent to it, of course, because the whole idea was, in that case, there wasn't anything anyone could do. Once it got out, that was it.
You said
it didn't matter what precautions were taken.
They're remaking
right?
that.
Yeah, I think they've been shooting it for the last little while.
Is it a movie or a series?
I think it's a miniseries.
Cool.
I forget what network. Might be CBS. I'll have to look into it, but yeah, I'm quite. I've heard that could come out maybe in late this year. I'm not sure. In any case, a few years ago, Marvel did a comic book series adaptation of about 30 issues. It's quite good. Might break that out, read it again. Follows the novel quite closely.
A good call to delay release of the new James Bond film, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I was annoyed at the time, but now I guess it makes a certain amount of sense.
I think somebody saw the writing on the wall there.
I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, that's supposed to come out in April. Now they moved it to November.
Very smart, because theaters will probably be closed in April.
Yeah, at least for the start of the month.
Mm.
I mean, we're just more than halfway through March right now. From what I've heard, where we're at, like globally, is kind of a thing. Like it's like everything is definitely shut down for 3 weeks, and then it's a go from there type thing. It's like we'll see where we're at in 3 weeks, if things are getting better or they're worse, and then we'll go from there. So it's like best case scenario at the 3 weeks we see like a real decline in this and stuff. And but yeah, so that seems to be the message seems to be getting worldwide from all the governments and stuff going out. Is like
I think the number is
3 weeks.
I think the number is going to keep climbing, but once people actually start social distancing and all that crap, it should start to go back down.
Yeah, what are they saying, like flattening the curve or whatever?
Flattening out, yeah. But I don't know if we're looking at May or possibly like as long as July, maybe August, but yeah.
If it's that long, that kills things like the NHL and NBA seasons completely, or like the playoffs. Like for instance, the junior league here, the QMJHL, as of today, they canceled the regular season, but the idea is playoffs could still happen, like a best case scenario thing. They would just start the playoffs based on like what had happened there. I don't know. It's probably not going to happen. That's on a personal note, I'm more upset about that than the NHL just because of the nature of it, because the junior team from where I'm from, the Cape Breton Eagles now, like this is probably the best team they've ever had. And even though there's always a small window in all sorts of sports, this is junior hockey. So guys age out, they move on. You can't have the same teams. So regardless of what happens, like you can't just like have the same teams next year or anything like that. So finally, it seemed like this team was poised to do something. And it's like now there might not be anywhere for them to go. Not to mention 2 different 50-goal races I was watching. The NHL one, finally I was going to see a Leaf score 50 goals for the first time since 93-94. Austin Matthews was at 47. And in the queue, the Russian Eagle, Egor Sokolov, was at 47. So, and he would have been, maybe the 3rd or 4th Eagle in franchise history. And I think just 3rd to score 50. So I was excited. Again, these are minor things in the grand scheme of things. I was talking about some personal disappointments, obviously. But yeah, so like if it's like July or August, that totally wipes out those things. And I imagine NBA too, because NBA moves at pretty much the same schedule.
Yeah, I was trying to look. I just saw whatever New Jersey's team, like 4 players were tested positive.
NHL?
No.
New Jersey, NBA?
Not the Nets anymore. They're the something else. I think they've changed.
Yeah. That's really what kicked everything off. Is like literally nothing was changing in North America until that first NBA player got it. Then everything went, and it's like, oh shit! And that's when stuff got canceled and everything. And that guy was even making jokes beforehand.
Right.
He was then like
touching
all the microphones and yeah. And there's like, no, he really does have it. And that was one of the reasons why the NHL fell a little after the NBA. Because at first they were thinking like, okay, we can still like, even though it's not ideal, we can play to empty buildings and not have crowds. But then they were just like, the logistics don't work out because they share so much of these places with the NBA teams, and we know the NBA has been compromised. So just there's no point. So.
Yeah, Brooklyn Nets. Joe Bob corrected me. They kept the name. They moved the team somewhere else. That's what it was. They were in New Jersey.
What's with this New Jersey, New York stuff moving around all over the place? And I don't just mean like necessarily franchise. Like the Islanders, the whole point of the Islanders was that they were on Long Island. But then for years, they actually had to play in Brooklyn, even though they were still called the Islanders. And now they're going back to Barclays Center. Like, I don't get it. But, yeah, a lot of movement. Anyway, this film opens with the character played by Gwyneth Paltrow, who's been on a trip to, was it Hong Kong?
Yeah, well, I know, you may be right. I'm not sure exactly.
She's coming back from Hong Kong, and she has a layover in Chicago where she sleeps with some guy.
Yeah, to add insult to injury.
Yeah, because she's married. So, yeah, she's having an affair or whatever. Or maybe it's not an affair. It's just like it's something like, so it's like she happens to be in town. And it's like, this is some guy she used to bang, and now they're...
You cheat on Fat Damon, man. No way.
Yeah, she's Matt Damon's wife in this. But anyway, then she comes back, and it promptly dies, like, right in front of him. Now, here's the big difference. One of the big differences where it diverges from reality is like when stuff starts getting sorted out and they realize like she started off, she was like sort of the first case for like this new disease that's like really dangerous and stuff, is they run a bunch of tests on Matt Damon and they find out that he's immune. I don't think there's some such thing for this. I don't think anybody on Earth is actually immune to COVID-19. There are people I think who are a lower risk to catch it, but I don't think there's such thing as someone who's immune.
I don't think we've found them yet, if that is the case. But yeah. So basically, he catches it, or she comes home and gives it to their son as well, and then she dies, and then promptly after that, the son dies, which is God, so disturbing for Matt Damon.
Yeah, and he still has his own daughter
mm-hmm.
from like a previous marriage or something.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
I think. And then, it's like him like freaking out, like trying to protect her mostly. But you get the interesting perspective of somebody that is immune. So he can actually like walk around the world and is freaked out like he's not going to get it.
Right.
Everybody else can get it. So that's what makes things a bit different. It's like Matt Damon, obviously he's not free because there's quarantines and stuff, but I just mean the one thing is regardless of what's happening, he knows he's not going to get it. Although I guess this still doesn't really make things too much better considering how crazy things eventually get. But yeah, the movie is fairly realistic because it starts off as these things would, like fairly low key, and then slowly builds. And
it spreads out to where a lot of people die from this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about something much worse than coronavirus here, guys.
Yeah, this was something with a higher, it's for a movie to make it more exciting too. So it's a higher mortality rate. By the time the movie ends, 26 million people have died, including 2.5 million in the United States. Mm-hmm. And it indicates probably more is going to happen there because the movie doesn't like end with them saying, here's a cure, everything's fixed. Like it doesn't end that way.
Well, they had a vaccine. I mean,
but still, they had a vaccine, but they were talking about the logistics of getting it out would take a long time.
Right.
But yeah, so obviously more death to come there. So it's a really high thing. They do mention the Spanish flu from 1919 a few times. So they say 1918. I guess it's because it originated in 1918, but it did most of its damage in 1919. If we're gonna split hairs on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done some research on the Spanish flu. I was trying to is it similar at all? I know that wasn't a SARS type virus.
I think it's similar. I think it was fairly violent though. Like it could make you like throw your guts up and stuff. Like It was a lot more dangerous than what we have now because what we have now, it's kind of what you expect. The people that are vulnerable to it are kind of what you expect. They're older people and people with compromised immune systems and such. Whereas, like, not saying a younger, healthy person can't get it. Like, for instance, we saw the MVP person get it. But they have a good chance of, living through it as long as they get treatment and stuff like that. With the Spanish flu, that targeted pretty much everyone. If you were, like, being, like, young and healthy did not protect you necessarily. Actually, I'll bring back to the NHL again. So the NHL, in its over 100-year history of the Stanley Cup, and the Stanley Cup even goes longer than the NHL, it's only not been awarded twice, and once was the stupid lockout season of 04-05, which is just a shameful, embarrassing thing to happen, and the other was 1919 because of the flu, but they came really close, actually. They were, because they had already gotten to the final. We were 4 games into the final, and the series was tied when they had to call it, because literally, not just because of what was going on globally, but because players actually playing in the series were getting sick and dropping like flies. One of them even died, a defenseman named Joe Hall, who played for the Montreal Canadiens. It was between the Montreal Canadiens and the Seattle Metropolitans. That was back. Seattle was not an NHL team. This was back in the early days when the NHA had turned into the NHL, that's National Hockey Association, to the NHL. And there was still another couple of leagues. And I think this was like a Pacific Coast League or something like that. And the idea of the Stanley Cup then was the champion from each league would face each other for the cup. So it wasn't just strictly NHL. I know I'm just adding extra information that's not important or relevant to the situation, but yeah. So that was quite different because, yeah, you had literally the players involved in the series. They had to they didn't call it because of everything going on globally, but because it literally couldn't continue because the players were not healthy. They were almost all of them wound up bedridden in hospital. And somebody who wasn't a player, like a manager or somebody close to the team, he got sick and he never really got healthy. He died like 2 years later, like it was basically complications from it. So yeah, so 1919 was worse.
Yeah, higher death rate, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Higher death rate. And as we said, like a lot more people were vulnerable to it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just think about the way history works. I mean, the world has just been through the first truly global war, World War I. Millions of people died there. And then this flu comes along right on its heels and kills even more people. That's why people often talk about this. It's a misnomer. It's not really true, but people talk about this thing called the lost generation, which would have been people that would have been like in their late teens to maybe early 30s in the World War I, just to start of the 20s year, because so many people died in the war and stuff. But that actually evens out pretty well with other generations. They didn't take the hit that it sounds like they would have, compared to, like, because a lot of people of other generations died too. Because I mean, yes, a lot of soldiers die in war, and a lot of the soldiers are in that 20 to 40 range, but a lot of just people of other ages die in war too, even if they're civilians. Because
right. But yeah, much like the coronavirus, I forget, what is it, M1 something in this, whatever the virus is called in this film.
Oh yeah, what the hell do they actually call it?
M something. But anyway, it originates in China from
just like bats. This, as it turns out, yeah.
But it's from bats, the same way this came from bats.
Yeah, they at the very end they show you exactly how it spread, how it started to move.
Cool, man, I really like the ensemble cast aspect of it, because they show you the virus from different perspectives, different people, the military, the CDC, you can see Matt Damon, who's like, in the thick of it. And then, we get to see also Jude Law's character, which we haven't mentioned yet, yeah, you did. He said he was like the crazy Alex Jones guy.
Yeah.
He's like basically spreading a bunch of misinformation, actually, is what we've come to find out is what he's doing. And, getting
so
rich off.
Yeah. At one point, he doesn't have it, but he lies and said he had it, and that he cured himself using something. So
forsythia.
Yeah, right. And yeah, he's some sort of blogger, and he always mentions he has 12 million followers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because Jude Law is like such a handsome guy. It's like, but now he's playing kind of a dirtbag. So like, what can we do? He's charming, handsome Jude Law. So like, let's fuck his teeth up a bit. So he has like noticeably messed up teeth. It's like, he's a bad guy because he's not the normal.
And I remember watching, and I was like, man, are his teeth really that fucked up?
They're not. They're usually perfect, because Jude Law, a lot of the time, his character is literally handsome guy, right? It's like he's still like handsome, but they try to, we have to mitigate that somehow. So I just think that's funny, because even today they use that sort of thing. Like bad guys are like ugly or scarred or something right. Bad looking, where good guys are, good looking. Or don't worry, we still have Matt Damon in this. But like you said, this is 2011. Matt Damon's not as young as he was.
Yeah, Matt Damon's playing like, neighborhood
everyman.
Yeah. Guy next door type guy. He's not playing the, beefcake.
MEV1? I think they call it MEV1.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or MEV1 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I knew what the CDC was, but this also mentions the EIS, Epidemic Intelligence Service. I don't think I knew about that. But that's it's a program. I mean, I've heard of the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. It's from that. It's like an agency that's like answers. It's a program within the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Because yeah, one of the characters in this is like an EIS officer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Kate Winslet's character.
Okay.
I'm just gonna double check that to be sure. Yes, she plays Dr. Erin Mears. So she's an EIS officer. And she's dispatched by, is it Laurence Fishburne that sends her?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and Laurence Fishburne, I can't remember, but he must be a CDC guy. Yeah, because that was one thing I kind of pieced together a little later. Like, I didn't quite know how the bureaucracy worked. I wasn't sure who reported to whom. I had to like double check a few things. Because as you said, like, it's cool. It's an ensemble movie, but I had to like slow it down a few times and figure some stuff out, because it's I just had some trouble. Yeah, plus, there are a few of the female characters, and this again, my face flying this thing where I mix them up who's who. There's a few like actresses of around the same age, and I realized they don't necessarily look alike or anything like that. You got Marion Cotillard, I'm not sure how to say that. Kate Winslet, and then somebody else.
The scientist.
Jennifer L. I don't know. Anyway, so you've got those three. And I realized it's not like they all look exactly the same, but still, sometimes I wasn't sure who was who and where it was going. Yeah, so I had to like basically after I watched the movie, sort of like read some synopsises and tie some names. Oh, that was this person. So yeah, I feel dumb because usually I'm pretty good at following stuff in movies, but
yeah, I forget who the lady over in I think she's in China.
That gets kidnapped.
Yeah. Who does she work for?
Right. So that's weird too, because if you look up like the plot outline in Wikipedia, how the way things work is, the first time you mention a character, you say their full name, but then later you can refer to them just by their first or last. They make sort of a mistake here because they never mention her, and then just suddenly they just throw in that this person that wasn't mentioned before, and they name her by her last name. So if anybody wants to touch that up and add some stuff to the plot summary on Wikipedia, it's missing a little bit because it just throws that in like towards the end.
Let's see, it's Lorraine.
Is that Hextall? Somebody's Hextall.
Lorraine, maybe Vasquez. I don't know. I can't see the rest of her name here.
Oh no, Hextall was Allie. And Allie's the one that, like, her father was a doctor or something. So that's not who it was.
Right. She was basically the one that comes up with the virus, the vaccine.
Right. The one that's over in China, she was with the WHO, so the World Health Organization. She's the one that gets kidnapped. Her name was Dr. Lenora Orantes.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So she's the one that, like, gets kidnapped. And at first I couldn't figure out, like, who was kidnapping her. I thought it was criminals, but it was actually, like, government officials that were doing it.
And like, because their village was being wiped out by the virus, so
yeah.
Basically, so they would get first dibs on the vaccine when it came out. That's why they did that.
Yeah. And then they just double crossed them anyway.
And she actually like comes to really like these people a lot. So
yeah, well, she was with them. They had her for like a month or two. So
yeah, I couldn't do the math on how long it was. I didn't look at the whatever day it was when they captured her.
It was at least a month that she was with them. So yeah, when she finds out that they gave them placebo, she goes right back to them because she wants to warn them and help them, which you can understand.
China wouldn't negotiate with terrorists, is what they said. So
yeah, so they had to make the deal outside of it, but then they didn't help them anyway.
Yeah, I know we're jumping around here, but the movie does that. So
yeah, it's really about giving us different points of view.
But I really like in the beginning, like when it shows her, she gets home, she dies. And then at that point, they're immediately doing the research to figure out, who's patient zero. She is patient zero. And, come to find out, she got on a damn airplane and flew back, infecting people all along the way. And then it goes to the other people that were with her that night, the people that she came in contact, and you see them die.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting watching them trace it back. Because at one point, she's like, I think, she's outside Hong Kong. I think she's at a casino in Macau, and that's like where it really starts. That's where it all starts, is when she's at that casino. It shows like after she eats her meal, she shares a drink or something with some Ukrainian woman, and then one of the first openings was like some Asian guy like who's clearly like dying from it, walking through the streets until he just literally steps in front of a bus and dies. You find out he's like one of the waiters there. So yeah, it's pretty cool watching them trace it back. They're using like security cam footage and stuff.
It seems a little far-fetched to be able to trace it to the exact person. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they seem so efficient. Like, I don't know if they.
Yeah, they're just following her on surveillance cameras, and then they're like, "There's this guy," and they got him on cameras. And then,
in a way, that's pretty lucky, I suppose, because a lot of these things could have happened like way out, like somewhere rural where there aren't security cameras.
When you've got something like this, that the gestation is only like 24 hours or something, so I guess it's a little easier to tie that down than something versus the coronavirus where you can be like 5 days without having any symptoms.
Yeah, that's something that makes our predicament a little tougher.
Yeah.
Is like you can have it and it's like dormant in you for like, it could be like even like a week or so before you start to show symptoms.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing they really try to get out and warn people. It's like even if you think you're feeling fine and stuff, you might still have contracted it somewhere along the way. So that's, again, another reason for this shutdown that we're doing. It's just like we just need time to pass. And as they said, it'll get worse before it gets better, but hopefully we'll turn a corner.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of what the scientists had to say, and they're just like, don't panic, guys. I mean, panicking is not going to help anything, and you don't need to panic because it's not going to be that bad, you know?
Yeah. But movies like this show it's in humankind's nature is to panic.
Yep.
And again, the movie gets a lot worse than where we're at and probably where we will get to. But even where we're at, there has been we've seen panic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've seen people buying stuff at a crazy rate. And because of the virus originating in China, we've seen people do racist attacks and racist tirades against people, not even Chinese, just Asian or whatever, all that, which again solves nothing and is also pointless and has nothing to do with anything. But anyway, it's just I always counted so many people in times of crisis, it brings out the worst in them, unfortunately.
That's absolutely true. It doesn't take much, man, for people to lose their shit. And all the, societal boundaries we've created, they go away.
And Matt Damon's sort of the guy we will see that through in the movie, because there's a part where he's, what is it, there's martial law,
mm-hmm.
but they have gatherings where the military's giving out care packages,
mm-hmm.
and they announce to this crowd, okay, we're out of ready to made meals for the day, and
mm-hmm.
the crowd riots.
Yep.
And and they're trying to get, and they're there must be more on this truck. And Matt Damon's there's nothing on the truck, people. But people in their, when they panic and get desperate, they do that kind of thing.
Which, that's what scares me more than any virus, is other people.
Right. And there's a lot of that in the movie.
Yeah. But
it's interesting too. The one thing I do like about the movie, and I said I find a lot of the characters not very interesting or memorable, but I do like Laurence Fishburne's character because he is supposed to be sort of one of the heroes of this, but it shows he's still human and flawed to the point where he does do something fairly selfish, and he tells his wife to get the hell out of Chicago and not to tell anybody. That winds up getting leaked, and that's one of the things that when they have that confrontation with. So he's on, what is it? He's on a talk show as an official from the CDC. And they're saying, okay, what's the protocol here? Blah, blah, blah. And then they have the special guest, Jude Law's, dirtbag character. And Jude Law, of course, is coming from a bad place. He's spreading misinformation stuff, but he has real ammunition because he's found out about what Laurence Fishburne had done, and he shuts him down with it. Because right here on national TV, this doctor has shown, instead of being professional, he's shown preferential treatment to his family, and he's suppressed information. Yeah, so he loses all his credibility.
That's his job, and I get it. And he tells his wife to get out of, or girlfriend, whatever, fiance, get out of town. And she calls and tells one of her friends.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as a virus spreading, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's information, you're not supposed to tell anyone. Well, just tell one person. Well, guess what? That one person blabbed. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as contact with a virus. Well, it's only one person. Yeah, well, that person met 2 people who met 4 people, etc.
Right.
Yeah, they talk about they have some interesting technical conversations about how these sorts of things spread and at the rate they spread at, which is interesting. And they do compare it to some real life instances to give a comparison for how fast it does spread.
Right. I think smallpox was 4, is it the OR rate? It's for every infected person, they infect this many other people.
Yeah.
And I think that was Kate Winslet's character that was giving off that presentation.
I had no idea that was Kate Winslet. I'm going to be a jerk again and focus on a character's appearance, but Kate Winslet, her character has this blonde hair, and it looks so bad because Kate Winslet has very dark eyebrows, and all this does is make them look even darker. Another actress through the 90s did that a lot, and she looked terrible for it. She was in Twister, I think.
Helen Hunt?
Helen Hunt, yeah. I always found Helen Hunt really distracting looking because of her dark eyebrows. If you have dark eyebrows, keep your hair dark.
Have you seen
there's Cole's beauty tip for the ladies.
Yeah, I agree. Have you seen
the show?
The PSA that she did? It was the after school special where she smokes crystal meth and jumps out of a window.
Holy shit! No,
pretty awesome.
That's Helen Hunt. That's Helen Hunt.
She smokes PCP. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh wow, I've seen a lot of those PSAs from the 80s and 90s. A lot of them a lot of the American ones did air on Canadian TV, and we had plenty of our own weird ones too.
They're great. Pee Wee Herman does one about crack.
That one I don't remember ever seeing. I saw that years ago on like the Nostalgia Critic show. I don't think that if that did air, I never saw it. But that is hilarious because he's in character doing it, which is the stupidest idea ever. I mean, I get it. This is Pee Wee Herman. Like, a lot of people know him and kids listen to him and watch him, but don't have him do it in character. And they put and he's like, this is crack. I'm thinking you would know pretty well, wouldn't you?
I love that stuff so much.
Crack?
Yeah, I love crack, but no, I love those
good
commercials as well, the PSAs. Because it's like Pee Wee Herman, like, I mean, your target audience is probably not the kind of people that are going to be smoking crack. You need like Ice Cube or some shit on there telling you not to smoke crack, you know?
But I mean, if he just was like, hey, I can't even remember his name, but you know his name.
I'm Paul Rubens.
Paul Rubens, and I play Pee Wee Herman, but now I'm going to talk to you. That would have worked. It would have at least made some sense, right? But no, in fucking character. So stupid. It's the secret word. Overdose.
Crippling addiction.
Yeah. I mean, some of them were just so brutal, like, because, like, I mean, it's true, like, there's drugs that can kill you, but, you know, they were like, remember that one where it's like that guy talking about drugs? He's like, I never thought I had to tell it to a 13-year-old. And it, like, pulls away and he's at the kid's fucking grave. Oh, that's the one that stuck with me.
Yes, man, that was bad.
I saw that one a lot, too. And it's like, they never even say what drugs, because this was the 80s, right? And it was just the war on drugs. So it's like, all drugs, they'll all fucking kill you. You'll be dead.
And let me ask you this, now that we're off topic enough. Do you remember it was called Cartoon All-Stars?
Yeah.
And it was, they did a whole morning special all about saying no to drugs.
Yeah, and they combined all of them.
It's like,
see, again, I never saw that. I saw that years ago again on the Nostalgia Critic. It blew my mind. It was like Garfield and all these characters all together. Yeah.
Muppet Babies,
so ham-fisted and terrible.
Ninja Turtles. But anyway, I had it on I had a VHS recording of it. So
that's awesome. I wish I had it.
I may still have it.
No, I never saw it back in the day. I'm sure it did air here because all that other stuff did, but I never actually happened to see it. But yeah, I saw it, you know, probably about 10, 11 years on the Nostalgia Critics channel. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that.
I mean, to me, that stuff, you know, Reagan era, you know, Reaganomics and everything, like the just say no. I don't know, man. It made me want to try drugs like way more than I probably would have.
It was a complete backfire, right? Like, it didn't give any information about like what the drugs were or what they did or anything. It was just say no. Even like people were like and you had his stupid wife, like she was the one that really came up with that, Nancy Reagan. The stuff is just like, you know, this is all a thinly veiled war on minorities, really. But let's go with how terrible drugs are.
Yeah.
Even before that happened, like when it kicked off in the 70s under fucking Nixon, and by the time Nixon was out of office, tapes had leaked of him basically admitting flat out that's what it was. That's why they were like criminalizing all these drugs, so they could put like blacks and Hispanics and stuff behind bars. And yet nobody seemed to pay attention to it at the time, and Reagan picked up the ball, and yeah, it was a crazy time. Ran with it. All that stuff.
It's like my entire, 80s growing up is just surrounded with that crap.
It was that and AIDS, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Wear a condom and don't do drugs.
It's like, oh yeah, and the Russians might nuke us.
Well, that was a little bit before my time. But,
yeah, same here. I'm a little too young to really have grasped that. I mean, I watched stuff that was in that context, but I didn't really, grasp or know that at the time. But I'm just saying, yeah, that was very much the 80s, right? That's what our friend B Movie Milk would always talk about, why he thought he would just like have a party attitude for the 80s. It's like, it all ends anytime. Let's have a party. I was like, I guess so. I suppose it's a generational thing, right?
My brother's 10 years older than me, and he tells me stories about like when he was in grade school, like, they would have like, nuke,
duck and cover drills.
Drills, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, they would like get under their desk and like, is that going to help you from a nuke? I mean, you can hide under your desk all you want. I mean, like we do like tornado drills, or did, in school. Never did the ones for nukes though.
Yeah.
Let's prepare for nuclear winter, children.
Yeah, nothing beats the original PSAs, like the '50s ones that had that, right? Like, I'm sure you've seen the '51s for duck and cover. Oh my god, they're hilarious. Especially if you're in school or you're supposed to go into the desk, but it shows like people walking along the street, and it has them like crouching down by the curb. Like, what? The nuke's gonna just go right through the middle of the street. Everybody knows that the blast, the nuclear blast, it only moves in this sort of direction. I don't know. Makes me think back. I can't remember. I think this is it seems more like it would be Dana Carvey because he's a stand-up, but I'm positive I can remember like seeing like 90s footage of not Dana Carvey, but Jim Carrey doing an impersonation of and he does a bang-on impersonation of Jimmy Stewart, talking about how like Jimmy Stewart was like such, a positive, upbeat guy, and he put a spin on anything, and had this whole thing about like how he'd react to like nukes being fired, and he'd be like, "Well, looks like we got ourselves a nuclear holocaust," and he's like, "God, wow, come on up to the window. Look at that mushroom cloud." Golly, it was really good. I can't remember.
Carvey did do a good Jimmy Stewart, or still does, I guess.
Yeah, so it could have been Carvey, but I think this was actually Jim Carrey, even though he doesn't usually do stand up. I think it was. I'm almost positive. I'll have to look into that. Anyway, it was really funny.
It may have been.
I always think of that
or something.
Yeah, I always think of that whenever people talk about like the possibility of like nukes going off. I think of that version of Jimmy Carter like being like, "Wow, looks like we're gonna have ourselves a nuclear holocaust. Look at that mushroom cloud." Yeah, anyway, I'm just repeating myself, but it amuses me still.
Yeah. Did you ever watch his that show he had, the Dana Carvey show?
No.
I'd say check it out.
Yeah, there's so many of those like from the '90s, like really short-lived shows by comedians.
I love sketch comedy anyway, but
I've seen like none of them.
It's got it's Dana Carvey, of course, and then it's got Steve Carell, like his first thing he ever did, and there's a guy on who did the Daily Show a lot. Like he's got may have a talk show now. You know who he is.
I'm sure I do. I know pretty much anybody that was on the Daily Show.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't really describe him. White guy, brown hair.
Oh, I know exactly that is. No, but yeah, for instance, like In Living Color didn't air on any of my channels, so I never saw that show, for instance. Which I know a lot of people say, hey, that's like the first thing like Jim Carrey was really known for. It was like In Living Color had a mostly black cast, but Jim Carrey was there.
Right.
Like, that never came on any channels I had. I only had to find out about that after the fact.
And Jennifer Lopez was a fly girl, one of the dancers on there.
Yeah, I've seen all the footage. I've seen clips and stuff. Yeah, I've seen some of them. Well, at least not all, but some of the more famous things I've seen, the Wayans brothers and such.
Stephen Colbert, that's it. Yeah.
Colbert, yeah.
Got me. I was looking it up. But yeah,
there's a lot of those really short-lived ones from the '90s. And
I think Louis C.K. was a writer on that show. I mean, it's really got crazy good writing and good. It only lasted like 6 episodes or something, but.
Yeah. In the early 2000s, Andy Richter had his own show for like 5 seconds. It was like Andy Richter control. No, it was like I don't know if it was like a sitcom or a sketch comedy. But it was called like Andy Richter Controls the Universe or something. It was on Fox for 5 seconds before it got pulled.
I feel like I may have seen some of that.
That's later though. That's not 90s. I think that's early 2000s. But I'm just thinking, there's a lot of just those shows that had like some prominent comedian and usually just their name in the title. Like for instance, a big one that a lot of people said was an excellent show that should have lasted longer was the Ben Stiller Show. Never seen it. No.
Oh yeah, it was him and Andy Dick and maybe Jenny Garofalo may have been on there too. That was a good show, really good show.
But a lot of people say it was a really good show and should have lasted longer. And it, never seen it.
I think that may have been what he did after he left or got fired off of SNL, whatever the case was. He did his one season of SNL, and then he went and did his show.
It wasn't until only a little while ago that I knew that Sandler got fired from SNL. I thought he just left.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
He got fired.
For what, man? Hadn't he already had some movies out by then?
I can't remember context. But it's not like he did some big terrible thing. They said you're out. It was just more like, oh, we're moving in another direction. It was more like that kind of thing. It was more like he was let go than fired. But still, it's like, why isn't he like one of your biggest draws? I mean, one of the things about SNL is that it has to evolve and move on. But you're thinking, really? I don't know. Well, I mean, don't tell that to Kenan Thompson, who's been on the show for what, like 21 years.
He's got the record now. I think he beat out.
He must.
Tim Meadows. Yeah, the Edge.
It's funny is
did you ever see the
Edge? I don't remember Tim Meadows at all. I know who he is, but I have no memory of him ever being on the show. I'm sure he was. I'm sure I saw lots of sketches he was in. Don't remember him.
Did you ever see the show The Edge?
No.
I swear this show had Jennifer Aniston on it. I haven't ever been able to confirm that, but I swear it was the first place I ever saw her before Leprechaun.
It was like a comedy show?
Yeah, sketch comedy.
Jennifer Aniston started out on a sketch comedy?
Who knew, right?
She's so unfunny.
Oh, wait, yeah, here it is. It's on IMDb. Yeah, she was on there.
No, your memory's good.
20 episodes. 92, 93, so that was right before Friends.
Yeah, that's one I haven't even heard of. See, a lot of these I heard of down the line because, they're people that are fairly famous now. And so, oh, they did this, but I had no idea. Like, that's not even one I heard about.
What about the
yeah, there were a lot of those. And the what?
State? It seems like it's up your alley.
Don't know it.
Oh, really? Michael Ian Hall. All the guys from like Reno 911. That's.
Oh yeah.
Their name.
I know those guys
right now, but.
Yeah, I know those guys. I know who you mean, that group.
That's a great show, man. I would definitely look up some episodes of that, or probably on like YouTube and stuff, because.
What's the era for that?
Early 90s, same. It's just like it was on MTV first, so it's got that extra, I don't know. It's like the alt aspect, it's kind of like against the norm, like fuck the man,
It wasn't until the 2000s that we started getting MTV programming, and that's when it was bad. Like, and it turned into reality shows. It's like the one good, or the one like MTV programming we got in the 90s was like the animated stuff. It was like Beavis and Butthead, and then the MTV's Oddities with the Head and the Max.
I loved all that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Max.
I was like Liquid Television. Did you ever see that on MTV? Or
yeah. I don't know if they called it that when they showed it, but I saw the stuff that was made up of that, because at the time I don't think I ever heard that term, Liquid Television, but I saw the stuff that was in it.
Liquid Television, it may have been where Beavis and Butthead got its start, but it had a Mike Judge did the film Office Space, and it had
that was 99.
The character of whoever the guy with the stapler, and there was that guy. It was an animated deal with that guy on Liquid Television.
Yeah, I remember. I've seen that. Yeah.
I love that show, man. All that stuff. The Eon Flux was on there.
Yeah, Eon Flux. I watched that. Yeah. Yeah, this was all stuff from MTV that got rebroadcast on Much. Then they went too far, and then Much did the same thing MTV did. It's like, let's not even show music or talk about music anymore. Let's just show a bunch of bullshit reality shows.
That's sad.
16 and Pregnant. Oh, yeah. It's like, I'm a fan of music. I'm going to watch music television. 16 and Pregnant.
Why don't they change the damn name of it already? Like,
change it to millennial bullshit.
I have to tell my kids, like, yeah, there used to be videos that went along with music, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I mean, we can talk about this later, but I need to know how far you are on the ones I gave you, the Canadian playlist.
I'm not as far as I'd like to be, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I realize there's a lot going on. It's hard to, but yeah, because I want to hear your impressions on some of that. Plus, I can give some more useless background information on some of it, because a lot of it is really connected. Because the thing is, as big as Canada is a country, it's a small population in the music scene. While spread out, a lot of these bands knew each other and interacted and had effects on each other, which was interesting because it was on a national thing. Because you always have musical scenes, like the Seattle scene, the Manchester scene, but in Canada we had it was just like the Canadian scene, even though it was huge because it was just smaller, huge but small. But yeah.
So they mentioned Tom Green in the chat. I know he's started out on Canadian public access, right? So
yeah, I watched the Tom Green show. that was him at like his most raw. He just did crazy stunts and stuff. And,
like the original Tom Green show, like before it went on to MTV.
I'm not sure. I don't know what the difference was. I mean, it always seemed pretty low budget and stuff.
I think they may have recycled some of that stuff too, so it is probably kind of hard to tell.
They probably did, yeah. But yeah, I remember that.
As
I said, like sometime in the mid '90s, that's when I started being like a night owl and watching a lot of that late night programming, and that was something that came along just a little after that. Was the Tom Green show. So, but yeah, that's all of the classic stuff. I love Scuba Hood, where he went. He put on the wetsuit and went scuba diving in the fountain at the mall. And he's like, I steal from the poor and give to the rich. And he was taking all the coins out. And he had his friend Glenn, and he had that friend with the glasses, Glenn Humplick, that he just did awful things to.
Yeah.
And he took his dad's van and put like a pornographic art on it and stuff.
Lesbians, like hardcore lesbian scene, I think.
Yeah.
That was awesome, man. I love that. That skit is so funny. He's just a funny dude in general. He's doing stand-up now.
Yeah. What's funny is, like, I remember years ago talking to people and saying, like, I knew who Tom Green was even before that. Speaking of Canadian programming, I should put on the list, I knew Check the OR. Check the OR was a huge hit in Canada and got tons of airplay. Organized Rhyme. You know that, right?
I'm not familiar with that.
Holy shit. Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, there is a Tom Green special that's probably on Netflix from like about 10 years ago. And at the very end, he does it. Okay. No, he was in a hip hop group in the early 90s called Organized Rhyme. And they had a huge hit called Check the OR.
Right.
And pretty much any Canadian of my age and older knows it. And yeah, that's what he ends that his, speaking of stand up, that's what he ends he did a stand up special in like 2007 or something like that. He's just called Tom Green Live or something, and that's what he ends with. Him and the other guy comes on, and they do Check the OR. Oh, that's an awesome song. That was hip hop for me growing up. Was Check the OR. It's just
I've heard that title before, but I can't say that I've heard it.
I can't do it justice, but Check the OR. You'll like it so far. That's the hook right there. But it's great. Actually, when I first saw that show, I thought that Glenn was the guy was one of the guys, because one of the guys has glasses, but it's not. It's not Glenn, but it's some other guy, because there's like three main guys. Tom was one. There's another guy with glasses and stuff. But oh yeah, you got to watch immediately after the show. Watch the music video for that. But yeah, I remember. So that's interesting. I figured you would have heard by now, because yeah, I just remember even a few years ago telling people like they thought that I was like, Check the OR. I don't know that.
Like, wow. I'm pretty familiar with Tom Green and stuff he's done, so I'm sure I've heard this at some point along the way. This was
before he had a show or anything. It was like pretty much the first like creative thing he's known for is being an Organized Rhyme.
So was it just called Organized Rhyme to begin with, and when he got popular, they changed it to Tom Green and Organized Rhyme?
I never heard it was called Tom Green and Organized Rhyme. It was just always Organized Rhyme. So yeah, I guess
pulling up. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because he's famous. But they were always just called Organized Rhyme. Because, yeah, he wasn't any more famous than anybody else at the time. This is like circa 92. Something like that. I think the video is 92.
I'm going to have an unpopular
great black video of them walking around Ottawa. I think it's Ottawa.
I'm going to have an unpopular opinion here. I actually like Freddie Got Fingered.
I've still never actually seen it. I know it's just kind of what you'd expect from him, like just bizarre.
My bum is on your lips.
Yeah, I'll watch it. I remember he had him hosting SNL, and it was back when he was dating Drew Barrymore. And that this whole thing where he said he was going to propose to her, and then she didn't show up, or it was a stunt. Of course, then they didn't get married anyway, and then they broke up. So
they did get married, didn't they? Or did they break up before they?
Or yeah, maybe they were married. Just they did get married, but it was brief. I don't know. Yeah, family. He was kind of like a part of the new school of comedy, where it's just like similar to like an Andy Kaufman thing, but different.
Yeah. Who was the guy that played his dad in that movie? He just passed away recently. He has a Rip Torn, I think was his name.
I love Rip Torn. Big fan of Rip Torn.
He just plays like an asshole dad so great, and Tom Green's just like constantly fucking with him. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Rip Torn's one of the great like comedic character actors. He's in lots of good stuff. He's in Dodgeball.
He's in Men in Black.
Yeah, he's in tons of stuff. I often get him mixed up with Tom Root. Tom Root's a lot younger, but they're similar. Sometimes I think they've even been in the same thing a few times.
Tom Root
or something Root.
Stephen Root.
Yeah, I think it's Stephen Root. Okay. I said Tom. Yeah, Stephen Root. The guy. Speaking of Mike Judge, he's a Mike Judge go-to guy. He was on King of the Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a show I'm going to go back and revisit.
It's a good show. It holds up well. As I've said many times about the show, I think the main thing that's good about the show is that it presents a character who I would disagree with on almost everything, but I still find him likable. Because, he's supposed to be like this really conservative old school guy, and he's got some various xenophobic opinions and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I still find him likable. I will say the bad episode for that is the Canada episode, because it doesn't teach him any lessons. It's exactly what you expect. Like, this Canadian family comes to live in their neighborhood for a little while. And you know how Hank feels. Like, the Canadians, they're not right. They're a little off. And of course, the guy's like a dick. Like, I realize, yes, every country has dicks. There's plenty of Canadian guys that are dicks. But what is the point of the episode just confirming Hank's beliefs in xenophobia? Like, it doesn't help at all. It's just like the Canadian shows up, he acts like a jerk, he's an idiot, and Hank is completely justified and right, and it's over, and he's learned nothing, and he continues to deeply distrust foreigners and stuff. They even have a part where he and Khan, who is from Laos, but is now a Laotian American, like, unite in their, like, xenophobia against the Canadian. Like, I'm thinking, oh, come on, guys. Apart from that, I like all the other episodes. But that episode pisses me off because I'm just like, yes, I get it. There is such thing as annoying, stupid Canadians. I deal with them quite frequently, but I don't see the point in sticking them on this show. It doesn't help.
I don't know that I've seen that episode, but it sounds like it's meant to be, like, ironic.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm just annoyed. Like I said, all it does is confirm all of his, like, beliefs instead of, like, because sometimes, the point is, like, Hank's this weird, button-down, straight-laced, conservative guy, and now he's going to learn a lesson, that to see the world a little more broadly, In this, he doesn't learn any lessons. It's like, you're right. Don't trust those stupid Canadians. Never sat well with me. But apart from that, really good show with good episodes. Really memorable characters. I guess that's why it stuck out. I mean, it was obviously pretty popular. It ran for like 14 seasons. I don't think anybody thought it would last that long.
14? Really? Wow.
Maybe 13. I mean, it might have run longer if Brittany Snow hadn't died. Or not Brittany Snow. Brittany Murphy, yeah.
So she died while that show was still going?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I think they rightly decided it wouldn't be right to continue without her, even though her character's kind of a shit character. Because they did not know what to do with her character. They had so many arcs for her, and then they would go back and undo what they did. Because she was his niece, who was like 19 or something when the show started. She was like in her early 20s. I don't like a lot of the later seasons because she eventually marries this hillbilly played by Tom Petty, and I hate his character's name Lucky, and I think he kind of ruins the show. Because one of the things is like, okay, like in the early episodes, like the punchline was like, she's dumb. She says all sorts of stupid things. She's an airhead. But then they had episodes of like, well, okay, we're being a little hard on the Wham. Yeah, she makes dumb comments, but she's not an idiot. Like she does have some smarts there. And then they go back and undo it all over again, stuff like that. And then it just confirms everything with her like marrying this hillbilly guy who is doesn't work but lives off a settlement he got by slipping in the bathroom at like Walmart, played by Tom Petty, and it's just terrible. He's ugly as hell too. Yeah. It's only like seasons like 10 on or something like that. And she does marry him and even has a fucking kid with him, and he's ugly as hell, which is upsetting to look at. But
like Bobby. It's probably my favorite character on that show.
Yeah, because Bobby won me over. Because in the early days when I was watching, I was annoyed by him. But eventually, I started to appreciate him. Probably the episode where he like fakes his way into making people think he's a high school student. That's probably the one that really won me over. He started going to the high school just because he thought it was neat. But then when he got caught, he like lied and said he was a high school student with this big, crazy, weird story. No Doubt is in the episode. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, wow. No
Because the whole thing is that, yeah, they're in this comp. Well, even though he's a junior high school student, he gets like all caught up and he becomes like a popular figure at the high school, and the high school's in this competition with other local high schools, and whoever wins gets no doubt to play their prom, and they win. And Bobby's one of the main reasons they win. The episode is called like Kidney Boy and Hamster Girl, a love story. It makes sense if you watch it. But yeah, that's the main. I mean, I was already coming around to it before that, but that's the one where I was like, okay, I kind of like him. Yeah, oh yeah, Hank is definitely a douche. I still do like him, but yeah, because sometimes yes, I work from home. That's usually what I do anyway when I'm working, primarily. Yeah, Bill. Bill is the one who is voiced by the aforementioned Stephen Root.
Bill.
So yeah, I think Stephen. Yeah, so that's where it is. Stephen Root and Rip Torn are both in Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Rip Torn's the old crazy coach, and Stephen Root is one of the guys. In fact, isn't Stephen Root the guy that plays the stapler guy?
Yeah. I said
very
his name
talented.
earlier in the chat.
Very talented guy.
I can't remember his damn name.
You know, I only watched this movie once, so maybe I missed some things. But this seemed to have skipped over a few things that have happened in real life. Maybe it's just because they didn't think it was relevant to the plot. But I didn't see any part where they talked about like canceling major events or anything. It's like we already just things move so fast that they jump past it.
Milton.
Like,
sorry.
Yeah, that's the name of the character. Yes. But I mean, in the movie, is there a part where like there's like news footage or something of them talking about like canceling major events or sports?
Skipped over it. People just started dying, so they just
And I mean, I get it because I mean, the movie is supposed to be a little more high drama than that because like unlike what's happening here, even though people are dying in real life, this is supposed for dramatic effect. People are dying at a much worse rate for this, so I guess they kind of skip over it, which makes sense, I suppose. But still, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the movie that is very close to what we've been going through, which is, I guess, is why so many people are interested in at the moment, which is why so many people were watching it. And we thought, hey, we've never done this on the show before, but let's cover something that's like topical, like right now. Because I mean, usually, not always, but a lot of the time for the show, what we try to do is try to shine a light on a movie that maybe people don't know or haven't watched or haven't heard of and stuff. And this, it's the opposite. But we thought, hey, why not? It's kind of the mood maybe a lot of people are in right now. So.
Yeah, we mentioned Kate Winslet's character. She basically is in charge of going and setting up like quarantine stations. And
yes, she's the EIS officer.
And she actually gets it. And, she knows she gets it and dies, quickly like everybody else does.
Yeah, she's the one that is the one who manages to trace it back to Gwyneth Paltrow, too.
Right.
So she's really sort of like the hero of the movie in a way, and she dies because she's the one that figures out the source, traces it back, puts herself at risk, and dies. And again, that just makes you think of there's at least a couple doctors in Wuhan. They were there for the beginning of it, and because of the way that the Chinese government handled it at the time, suppressing information and lying to people and stuff, a couple of these doctors died, and it's really tragic.
I mean, allowing travel to continue was really the big problem.
Yeah. And I mean, almost every country did that. I mean, all countries were too. I mean, I know you can say hindsight is 2020, but I don't know. I think we were saying this beforehand. People should have shut that down earlier. All the governments really dragged their heels on that.
But again, it's the nature of this virus. Is that it gestates for so long that before there's a problem, you're covered up with fucking Contagion. So
another thing that's in this movie is it talks about what's the term called? Hold on. Fomites. So they say that the virus is spread by fomite, and a fomite is a term for any sort of object that like a virus can live on, and that's the same thing we're in right now. Is that like the virus that a person has, if they touch something, can get on it, and you touch it and get it on yourself, and that's the thing. Right. I was at Walmart today, pretty sedate there, and I didn't get enough stuff for it, and I almost never get it anyway. But people getting baskets and carts, they had like a thing set up, so like when you got a basket or cart, you had like a wipe and a spray, so you could wipe the thing with. So that's the principle of fomite. So that's one of the other main parallels between this movie and this is that that's sort of one of the main things that spreads the virus. Besides just somebody coming up and coughing on you, it could be like you touch something that somebody touched, and now you have it. And they try to figure out exactly how long the virus can survive in that state. They know it for this, don't they? Like how long COVID lasts on a surface. It's different for different surfaces too. It's like plastic is one thing, wood is something like that.
I think like metal is the worst. It lasts the longest on metal for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know what it is, but I don't know the exact figures.
Yeah, it says here the thing about its spread, the ratio of how it's spread is the basic reproduction number is what it's called, and it's 4. So by the end of the movie, it's determined that 1 in 12 people in the world will be affected with a mortality rate of between 25 and 30%, which is obviously quite high, way higher than what we're dealing with here. Although what we're dealing with still is significant.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it is everyone. It's not just the sick and the old. It's people of all ages.
Right. It's a lot like the 1919 one, whereas what we're dealing with now, anybody can get it. I'm pretty sure, but there are people that are less at risk of it harming them seriously.
Yeah, the way that they got the vaccine, the doctor who was working on it, she actually tested on herself.
She exposes herself to her father so that she can get it.
Well, she gives herself the vaccine and then she exposes herself to her father.
Yeah, and
that's how it's created.
Right. So she's I guess there's more than one hero they're trying to show. There's multiple heroes, which is really how it works in this situation. It takes more than one person.
I mean, normally the battery of tests it would take to go through that process is pretty, lengthy. Usually takes a couple of years minimum to get a vaccine.
Right.
Once you can grow it in a lab, you can start to, work your way on the. I don't know how far along they are on this thing, but
right, and that's the main problem with the virus in the movie is that they can't, because of its unique cell structure, they can't seem to get it to grow.
Is that right?
Every time they try to get it to grow, it would break down or something. Let's see here.
Was it Elliot Gould that was the first one that was able to grow it?
I don't know.
That's the actor's name. I don't know the character's name.
Somebody working with Hextall, who's the woman that we were just talking about, who he was working with Dimitri Martin too. Dr. David Eiserberg, yeah. So he and they both work for CDC. Yeah. Dr. Gould, yeah. So Gould was not part of the CDC or any official thing. He was a research scientist at the University of California, San Francisco. So he was outside the system. Right. And what was it? They were telling him not to do something, and he went ahead and did it or something, and they were mad at him.
I don't think he was supposed to be growing it where he was. I think it wasn't. For some reason, it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah, it wasn't safe in that environment or something.
Safe, yeah. But yeah, so many characters, man. It's almost hard to try to figure out where we are in the movie.
And I did. That's what I said. I watched the movie. I had to pause it a few times and double check things and cross-reference names. And I'm not saying the movie's confusing. I think maybe my head I probably wasn't as focused as I usually am.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot to take in. But so Kate Winslet's character dies. Wish I knew these fucking names of these characters, but there's so many of them. Anyway, she dies, and then shit really hits the fan because
she's Mears. She's Dr. Erin Mears.
She's infected, and Jude Law's character is telling everyone to take forsythia, which doesn't work.
Right. So he's like a blogger guy that he's one of those people that has sprung up right now. He considers himself a journalist, but most people think he's not really a real journalist because he never did any real stuff. And now he's a blogger and he gets in people's faces and stuff. And It's funny. It did pretty much foreshadow what's happening now with various crackpots coming up with, oh, here's a way to cure it. This will fix it. And trying to cash in. He has an interesting speech with this guy just before he gets arrested too, about like his justification for doing it. He's like, I'm not the first person to profit from this kind of situation. And he starts like talking about drug companies and all that. And there is some truth to what he's saying.
Yeah.
But he gets arrested for like securities fraud and something else. A few things.
Oh, he gets charged with a lot of things. And they find out that he doesn't have any antibodies, so he lied about actually having the virus. So he said he got it, took Forsythia, and then he's like, I'm all better now. So everybody would go out and start buying that stuff. And it works. People stand in line for it, and then when they run out, they riot.
Yeah. He's arrested for conspiracy and securities fraud. I don't really know what securities fraud is, but that's basically when you say something you're selling isn't what it is or something, I think.
Oh, really?
Don't quote me on that. I might be really oversimplifying it. But yeah, so yeah. More of that rioting behavior. So the thing is, after that interview where they're both on TV together, people find out who the doctor is, Laurence Fishburne's character, and they attack his wife. Remember, they go to the house because they think, oh, this guy probably has like vaccines and is hoarding it, and they attack her. And she's like, we don't have anything here. I thought they were going to kill her, but they didn't.
I know you have it. He works there.
Yeah, that's basically their thought process in this.
And Matt Damon, doesn't have any food for his daughter, and he sees gunshots in his neighbor's house the night before, and he knows they're probably dead. So he breaks in there and finds a shotgun. I don't know if he finds any food or not, but finds a shotgun that he uses. And another plot line is that his daughter is dating this guy. And, Matt Damon's more overprotective because he's lost his wife and his young son already. So he doesn't want them having any contact at all, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Has to chase them off with a shotgun a couple times.
Well, I mean, the part where like the boyfriend like tackles her and is lying on top of her. Let's take the whole pandemic out of it. No father wants to see his teenage daughter in that position with her lying on her back and the boy on top of her. So he's not overreacting in that sense. If there was no pandemic at all, if I was the father, I would like get the fuck off her,
Right. Yeah.
And then he does try to make up for it. Like he helps her have her stupid prom. Like I get it. I mean, I guess it's fine. We all have things like right now that we're missing that aren't that important, but we still miss them. We care. So I'm not going to come down on the girl. This was important to her. I didn't give a shit about prom when it happened for me, but some people it really matters. So, and of course now, this does bring in the whole school year thing that we're dealing with now. Like, what are students going to do? Could they lose the school year?
I've heard some schools have canceled the rest of the year, which is just nuts, man. But okay. I guess we'll find out in the next couple of weeks what we're looking at.
Yeah.
There were 10 cases in my state yesterday. Now there's 21. So it's like growing exponentially every day.
This is the worse before it gets better part.
Right. It's going to get worse.
They spoke of
21 cases. But like when you look at it, like 500 people have been tested. So, and if you look at the worldwide numbers, right? I mean, number of people that were infected and the number of people that have recovered, it's a pretty good percentage,
Yeah.
The death rate is not that high on this thing. And, a lot of people have already, they're already over it. So.
Oh, yeah. Also, what happens, and I wonder if this could happen in real life, is that during this movie, the nurses leave. They go on strike and leave. And they say, can they do that? And the guy, and he gives a pretty good answer. He says, well, look at what we're doing. This is our strategy. We're taking infected people and putting them next to not infected people and hoping the not infected don't get infected. It's like, it's not a good strategy. It's not paying off.
That's why it's stupid to call in the National Guard to round these people up, because all you're going to do is get the National Guard infected. It's fucking stupid, man.
Mm-hmm. And lead to violence, probably, right?
Oh yeah. So if you feel sick, stay at home. self-medicate because there is no cure for this thing. So going to the hospital is not going to help you. And if you go to the hospital, all you're going to do is infect more people.
Right. So I'm thinking of some other Outbreak style movies. I've seen parts of Outbreak many times over the years because it was a movie that, at least where I live, was always on TV. Yeah. I never caught the beginning or the end, but I always saw pieces of it. I know that it came from like a monkey or something, but I don't even know what's going on in that movie. I just remember it was another sort of ensemble cast movie. It had a lot of names in it. It's from '95.
Oh, tons of names, man. Cuba Gooding Jr., Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo.
Yeah. Big ensemble cast, but what was the deal there? What was the Outbreak?
Yeah, I actually just watched that with a double feature with Contagion. I had seen pieces of it, like you said. It was a really popular movie when it came out for some reason. So yeah. I finally sat down and watched it, and it's a decent film. But
I just remember most of it was like they have like those tents set up and people running around from tent to tent, and
it was the
military being around.
The thing in this movie was it was one city in particular that. It was one monkey that had two different strains of like an Ebola type virus. That's what they were going for. This was soon after there was an Ebola outbreak, I guess in Africa. That was from a monkey as well. But it's in this one city in California, and the whole thing is really like Dustin Hoffman and CDC and government. The government's basically trying to cover this whole thing up. So they're eventually going to nuke the city.
Oh, wow.
So
I don't think I knew that angle.
Wait, no, not nuke. Another type of bomb that like implodes on itself. Neutron bomb, maybe. I don't know the different.
Right. Take out the city.
Kill everybody in the city and the virus. Because this one starts out to where the first strain of it is not airborne. It's only through contact. And then the second strain comes out. That's the one that's in the California city is airborne, and like everybody gets infected with it in the entire place.
Yeah.
And
so is it like Dustin Hoffman's trying to find like a cure or something? He's racing against time so they don't blow up the city.
It's pretty fucking crazy, man. Spoilers for Outbreak, guys, if you haven't seen it. It's he in Cuba they steal a helicopter, right? And they're going to track down the monkey because they need the monkey to create the antivirus.
How can they find vaccine. One monkey?
It's crazy, man. It's got Patrick Dempsey's in there, and he's basically the one who causes the whole problem. He kidnaps the monkey or steals the monkey and is going to sell it, and it gets loose, or he lets it loose on his way to the airport. So it's like in some suburban neighborhood, this little girl's feeding it.
Okay, well, at least that, yeah, right, because it's in America. It's not where monkeys are in the wild. So that makes a little more sense that they could maybe find a monkey, because it's not like there's a forest full of monkeys. Go find the one that's affected.
Very far-fetched. Very far-fetched.
But still far-fetched, yeah.
And it's crazy. But, yeah. That's a really bad disease, too. You, like, bleed out of your eyes. You bleed out of your eyes and anus. That's what Ebola.
Oh yeah, they have to make it a really gruesome, terrible death too.
That was what Ebola did to you. So
yeah.
But
yeah, I was thinking of one of the ones I've always interested in. The book was the book, an early book by Michael Crichton, The Andromeda Strain, which is much different, obviously. And it's the whole idea is it's a contagion that's extraterrestrial. And I can't even remember if it becomes like a worldwide thing or if it's just, I don't think it becomes a worldwide thing. I think it's just like a fairly small outbreak that they're trying to contain. And it's sort of similar stakes, I think, to Outbreak, in that I think like the government's thinking about just blowing up this town or something. Something like that. It's been so many years since I read the book. It's been many years since I saw the movie. And in 2008, I think, they made a new miniseries, and I was really interested in it. And I taped it, and then I never watched it, and I never kept it. So Benjamin Bratt was in it, and a few other people, but I never actually saw it.
No, I watched some of it. I don't know if I finished it, but yeah, I definitely watched it. I don't remember being particular.
I mean, The Andromeda Strain was pretty good because, I mean, it was written in '69, and the movie was '71. The movie's really slow.
Yeah. For the subject matter, it does kind of drag.
I mean, that is sort of what Crichton likes to do. He gets into some sort of scientific. It's all about getting some sort of theoretical scientific idea and then talking about it. He's such a smart guy. I don't know why he he's dead now. How somebody so smart could have been like such a big climate change denier. It's so weird.
Really?
Because you think of like the people that like deny that, like they're like they don't like science. It's like this guy was a super like into science guy that wrote all sorts of stuff. It was fiction, but still like was grounded in some real science and did actual research and stuff. Such a smart guy. And as I pointed out before, probably on the show, if you talk about Michael Crichton, he was a giant. He was 6'10", which
really, I didn't know that.
Knows. Yeah, he was massive.
Wow. Huh. I did not know that. I just know, when he got really popular again with Jurassic Park coming out, being a huge hit, all that stuff was re-released. Like, I think that's when I saw, Andromeda Strain for the first time.
More than 90% of his books have been made into movies.
What else has he done? The movies.
Of movies?
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of monkeys, how about Congo?
Congo, yeah. That's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. Basically, because it has, what's his name? Tim Curry.
Oh, man.
Tim Curry and gorillas, lasers.
Stop eating my sesame cake.
Had it all. But yeah, unfortunately, like none of the movies, except for Jurassic Park 1, like none of them are really good adaptations. And so one of the ones that makes me mad is this timeline. I really love the book timeline, and the movie is just such garbage. God, that's the one where they go back to like medieval times. What's that?
Sean Connery in that?
No, Billy. What's his name is?
Okay.
Billy, the Scottish guy.
I've seen it. Another Scottish guy.
It's fucking awful. Billy Connolly. It's Billy Connolly. But anyway, that's one of the that's whenever I bring up an example, there's lots of examples, obviously, of movies that do terrible jobs of adapting books, but that might be like number one on my list. I hate it so much. It makes me so mad because it's a really well-written, well-thought-out book again. And again, it's based on time travel, so it can't be too much in science, but it's really good. And the book and the movie's just garbage.
It's got a big struck against it for me. Top billing is Gerard Butler.
Yeah. He's actually, as we've talked about the departed Paul Walker a few times. Like to me, like Paul Walker makes Gerard Butler's acting look fantastic. Like I hate Paul Walker's acting in most movies, and it's really bad in this movie. And it's just not even, and some of it's not entirely his fault because they just completely changed the character. Completely, because I guess they wanted to give like a character that the audience would identify more with. Because the whole point is they're all academics. They're like these university students, and they're all working under Billy Connolly, and they're going to go back and they're excavating this dig in France of medieval stuff, and this happens. And anyway, the character Chris, who Paul Walker plays in the book, is one of the academics, and the point of him is like when he's like back in time and he's in the medieval world and he has to like joust and stuff, like it's often commented like how he doesn't fit into this world. Like there's like a little squire and he's like putting his armor on. He's like, have you been sick? Because he's just, some skinny guy. He's not built and buffed like a knight would be. And the whole thing is like, he's not a tough guy. He's a history major guy, blah, blah. But for this, it's just like, we can't have the whole cast be a bunch of fucking academic eggheads. How about Paul Walker is an ordinary cool guy that everybody likes? But why would he be there? Oh, he's Billy Connolly's son. And they even make a point of him having some really embarrassing lines just to distance himself from these nerds. Because he's like, I never understood my dad and all your people's like interest in history. Like, I live in the here and now. Like, who gives a crap about what happened 500 years ago? Like, he really lays it on thick, that he's not one of them. Like, he's a cool guy. I hate it.
Let's go play some sports ball.
Yeah. Anyway, fucking terrible movie, but a very good book. He wrote it's not even a full book. It's a novella called Eaters of the Dead, which is really cool. It's a fictional account of Vikings, like, making contact possibly with like weird, like cave monsters that may or may not be like some sort of like other offshoot of humanity that got like more feral or something. And, but it's told through it's told as like journals written by this Muslim guy from the Middle East that had come and visited and was like traveling with them. Anyway, that was made into a movie called The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas as the guy. That's a cool movie.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. I mean, it's not great, but it's a good movie. It's one of the better ones as far as an adaptation goes. But what else we got? Everything has been a movie.
So Michael Crichton wrote the screenplay for Jurassic Park as well.
That helps.
Oh, Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld was not a novel. That was just it was directed by Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton wrote and directed Westworld. That was not based on a novel. That was just a movie. Period. What else we got? Rising Sun. Decent movie, a decent book, not very good movie, but not a great book either. It's sort of it came out. The book was written still in the 80s, so when it came out in 93, it was a little past because the 80s. One of the things we talked about was that prevailing idea that Japan was booming and they were going to be this economic superpower and overtake everybody. So there's a lot of that going on in the book that doesn't really get mentioned in the movie. One, they had to downplay it because that wasn't really the case anymore in 93. And also because it's another one of those things that doesn't really translate to screen, right? Because it's just a lot of talking and things like that.
Oh, wow.
A book he has that I hate that is a bad book and a bad movie is Disclosure, which is just basically about sexual harassment, more or less. And of course, because it's a sexy thriller and it's the 80s or the 90s, it's fucking that guy, I brought it up Michael Douglas, because for some reason he was the go-to guy in sexy thrillers. Apparently he was what women wanted. I don't get it at all, but anyway, it's a shit book too. And I was really just distracted by the fact that there's a minor character in the book named Don Cherry. And all I can think of is, the real Don Cherry. But this Don Cherry is nothing like him. He's like, they work for some tech company and stuff. It's all about it's about inter-office politics and technical stuff and trades and stocks and all this shit that I don't understand.
He wrote Runaway, the Tom Selleck.
Don't know that.
You may enjoy it. It's pretty cheesy. I know it's one of Rambo Raft's favorites.
Oh, right. Definitely not based on a book.
I don't think so.
Did The Terminal Man ever have a movie?
Yeah.
That did have a movie. Okay.
74.
Wow. 74. I'd love to track that down.
No way it's any good.
I'm sure it's not. The book's not that great either. It's another one of, again, really early books from the early 70s, but still pretty good.
Sounds cool.
It's worth a read. Here's one. Here's another 90s one where it's actually a really flawed adaptation, but I like it anyway, and that's Sphere. I like Dustin Hoffman again. Like, once again, it's really flawed compared to the book. Some of the things they have to change and move, but I still really have a soft spot for that movie. Something about it endears itself to me.
Yeah, I'd like to watch that one again, actually. I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. I like those movies, like weird discovery type movies. So yeah, like almost all of his stuff before he died was Airframe was the big one that was never, which is like a movie, less a novel and more like a 300-page like booklet on like airplane stats. It has the worst twist ever too. So Airframe, I don't even know how I got through it. It was so dull and terrible. And I was a person who was interested in airplanes back then. I was into airplanes a lot when I was that age. Yeah, I used to want to be a pilot. And although I wasn't really modern airplanes, I was really obsessed with World War II airplanes. But although I did like some, I remember when I was a kid, I used to take out books on like some of those flying teams. In Canada, we have the Snowbirds, the US has the Blue Angels, stuff like that. I really like those cool flying teams. Nowadays, I think they're just big wastes of taxpayer money, but that's what it is to be an adult.
A waste of fuel, waste of a lot of things. But
yeah, exactly, right?
I've seen the Blue Angels at least once.
I mean, I'm sure it's impressive and they're really skilled, but yeah, it's like.
Yeah, we had this thing in our town. It was called like the Sky Parade or something like that. It did it for like 2 or 3 years, and it was just all about airplanes and shit. You probably would have loved it.
Yeah, I would have back then. I mean, I'd still be interested. I'd still be interested in now to see an actual air show. I've only seen air shows like in movies.
I just remember it being like hot as fuck. It was like in July, like 110 degrees or some shit. It was ridiculous. It was fun though.
I made a movie about Prey. Prey is interesting because it's kind of like a Contagion movie. It's like a techno-organic virus. It doesn't make you sick. It just like takes you over and turns you into like a drone. It's kind of like the Borg or the Phalanx type thing.
Oh, do you join the collective?
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? It's like joining like a collective like AI thing. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Whenever I think of Andromeda Strain, I always think of a movie called The Puppet Masters. Did you ever see that? It also has Donald Pleasance in it. Kind of,
but I think I've read about it.
Similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but
yeah,
it's got a little alien that, like, lives on your back that, you know, plugs into your brain.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but yeah, I've definitely heard some things about it.
I had a lot of. I mean, I loved it at the time, but you know, I had bad taste.
Yeah, in Andromeda Strain, there was a possibility of destructing a nuclear weapon. So yeah, my memory of that is hazy. I'm just looking it up to confirm that, but that was one of the things that was at stake here. This whole thing about sending this team in. I'd definitely like to reread that. I don't own it anymore. I used to own it. I don't know. I lost track of my copy. I like a lot of people aren't like this with books, but I like replacing old books. Like, I don't like my copy of Sphere because it's from like back in the 90s. I'd like a new shiny copy of Sphere. So this is a good opportunity to maybe get a new copy of Andromeda Strain since I don't even have the old one anymore.
Did you get Sphere like after the movie came out?
It was around the same time. I read the book before I saw the movie, and I saw the movie in theaters. But I think it's because Ryan actually had read it before I had. I think maybe the movie's coming out and Ryan told me it was on the book, and I think the first time I read the book, Ryan owned it. He loaned it to me, I think. So this would have been like sometime in 94, 95.
That's got to be.
I was really getting into my stride. I mean, he was like my favorite author back then, probably.
Really?
Well, if not favored, like up there.
Sphere was what, 95?
Yeah, the movie, yeah. It's another one of the first movies where I like knew where I like noticed, and it's again, he was also in Jurassic Park, Samuel L. Jackson.
Was it Sharon Stone in that? Who was the female?
Yeah. Sharon Stone, whom I don't like in anything except for The Quick and the Dead. That's like the only movie I've ever liked her in. The rest of the time, I find her really off-putting.
Oh man, I'll tell you what she's bad in is Casino. God damn.
She's one of the worst things about. I think I don't like that movie anyway, and she's a big part of it. She's awful in that movie.
I could do without her.
I realize part of it's her character, but I mean, yeah.
I feel like she's playing herself.
She's very shrill in that movie. We'll say that.
But, we just lost a bunch of viewers. Sharon Stone fans, I presume.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because I'm often on record, speaking of Michael Douglas again, about how shitty I think Basic Instinct is. Like, that was a movie that was like popular just because like it had like an infamous scene, but the movie doesn't hold together at all. It's crap.
I've never seen it. I've seen the scene.
I'm really surprised you've never seen Basic Instinct. It's crap.
I fast forwarded through it.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. It's crap.
Was Michael Douglas in that one too?
Yeah, because again, it's like a sexy thriller. He gets involved with this femme fatale because apparently that's the kind of thing she's into. Fucking Michael Douglas. Like, oh man.
Did I tell you about that show on Netflix? Don't fuck with cats.
No, but I've seen it on Netflix. I know it's there.
Check that out, but it's really interesting because the guy he makes up this huge story, like the guy that actually kills the people and the cats and stuff, and he basically tells the story of Basic Instinct. It's really crazy. Yeah. He's like, someone's making him do it, and all this stuff.
I've even seen Basic Instinct 2, one of those super late sequels no one ever asked for.
But it was great.
Oh my god, it's a train wreck.
She show her bush in that one too?
I don't know. It has like an orgy scene in it, but it's TV orgy. It's not good.
Who asked for that? Like,
because it was like, Basic Instinct was 92. I think Basic Instinct 2 was like 2006 or something.
Oh, at least, yeah. It's like, hey,
like way after.
The only thing this movie had going for it was her sex appeal, right? Like, and she's lost that by that point because she like fucked her face up with plastic surgery and stuff. If you want to like watch like Action Jackson, like it was before she had plastic surgery that she even looks different than she does in Basic Instinct. She's actually really attractive in Action Jackson.
She's in that really
Deadly Blessing.
Yeah, I was gonna say Deadly Blessing. That really boring, slow. Is that a Wes Craven movie?
the Amish.
Yeah.
The story is that he cheated with her. That's why he divorced his first wife. He cheated on his wife with Sharon Stone.
Michael Douglas?
No, Wes Craven.
Oh wow, Wes Craven. I guess I kind of get it.
Yeah, I get it. No, I never got the Michael Douglas thing. He was in like every movie. That was like that, had that, like, even like Malice. No, he wasn't in Malice, but he was in a lot of those type movies. Those, you call them like sexy thrillers, or
that's what I mean. He was the go-to guy of sexy thrillers, so of course he's the guy in Disclosure. Disclosure is basically Basic Instinct, except you take out somebody getting murdered. It's the same thing. It's just the corporate version. That's what it is. It's Basic Instinct, but in like the corporate world.
What's the one where his boss like seduces him? And
that's Disclosure.
It is Disclosure? Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the female lead in that?
That is a good question.
It's not shit, I can't think of the name.
Oh my god. That's Demi Moore.
Yes.
I mean that's prime time Demi Moore though, so I mean at least that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Early 90s Demi Moore, that's good. Dennis Miller's in that movie. Jesus, that's how forgettable it is. Here's a weird thing. So last week we did Once Upon a Time in America, and Disclosure is scored by Ennio Morricone. That seems so odd. Yeah. Even though he's known for like all those big epic scores that he did primarily with Sarah, what's his name, Leone. He did just a lot of ordinary scores too, and I guess that's one of them.
You gotta work.
You gotta work. But yeah, I still think. I mean, I haven't seen everything he's been in, but yeah, I still stand by that. I actually think even more so than the iconic Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I think that Once Upon a Time in America is his best score.
Yeah, I'm actually not a very big fan of those Italian spaghetti westerns. It's not a genre.
I've come around to them in later years.
Maybe I need to revisit, but yeah, maybe a decade or so ago, I tried to watch quite a few of them, and it's just not my genre. I'm not a Western guy. Like, I don't really like, I like, Unforgiven, but that's like one of the only Westerns I actually care for.
As I said, like, my favorite might be The Quick and the Dead, which is not at all a great Western. Although I did just watch Once Upon a Time in the West again, and I might consider that to be maybe the best Western. It's really good. But yeah, see, because this was something, before this came up, I was thinking we might do sometime soon is do a Western or two, just, one or two, not a series or anything, but maybe some different ones. And I know I mentioned one to you. It was different because it's not an American Western, but it's an Australian Western.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I'm open to that. That's what I want to do on this podcast is, explore stuff that I may be closed-minded to otherwise.
Yeah. So I think maybe not. Yeah, in the near future, I think we might hit one or two Westerns just to branch out. But yeah, and I just was thinking about, but seeing that movie every time I try to say, I say once upon a time. I can't say upon. It's like I want to rush through it. Once Upon a Time in America.
I get tired of saying the word. I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah. I need like the abbreviation.
America. The movie's just called America now.
Yeah, that's more my speak.
The great 4-hour epic crime movie by famed director Sergio Leone. America.
That would be funny. But yeah, I guess so. We can get back to the movie a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking at some stuff about like how close it is to like being factual. It's pretty good as far as getting down to the biology. One of the things I'm reading here that is troublesome is they were talking about how they were having trouble growing the virus in cell culture, citing the reason that it killed all the cells. Mm-hmm. Though some viruses are extremely difficult to grow in cell culture in real life, culture killing usually indicates a successful attempt to culture the virus. So yeah, so they made a mistake there about talking about killing the cells. It actually means the opposite. But that's like one of the only main mistakes I can find. Like a lot of the other like technical stuff they talk about is more or less accurate.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It kind of praised in the scientific community for being relatively accurate, which is.
And this isn't inaccuracy, but this is something that I kind of wondered. It seems like a hole in the movie. Okay, so we talked about how like Matt Damon's character is somewhat unique in that he's mentioned to be immune. That's never expanded upon in the movie. Nobody talks about it. He's not brought in for like any further testing or anything like that. They just like, turns out you're immune, you can go.
You would think,
and that's that. You think there would be a bigger to do about it?
You think he could be used to find a cure or something? Maybe.
Yeah, because that's usually how it works in these scenarios.
Yeah, you're right.
But instead they just release him. Say, okay, you can go. And it's not like reported to the press or anything either. That like certain people could be immune. That's never brought up. They're just like, that's kind of a fluke. It turns out you're immune. And then he like asks, well, was my daughter immune? They say, 50-50. Go now. Bye-bye.
50-50. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no acknowledgement of the phenomenon, like that there could be healthy carriers. Even though that's like something that like in real life typhoid Mary was, right?
Oh, was she was the way they found the cure or the vaccine?
No, she wasn't the way they found the vaccine. It was just that the fact was she was like the ground zero, patient zero or whatever like that. Oh. But she herself, I don't think, was actually affected by it.
That's right.
She was the person spreading it everywhere when it started, but she herself, it didn't make her sick.
Makes sense. I guess we can get towards it builds and builds and gets really bad. Then they developed a vaccine. They gradually start pushing that out, and they use a lottery system for that, which I don't know how realistic that is, but I know like they did a lottery for like the.
Yeah, that's right. They're going by like what people born on what day. They were drawing dates.
Yeah, the draft in Vietnam. They would draw, lotteries, and those people would be excused from the draft. I don't know if it was specific days or, however they determine that. But in this movie, it's day. It's like a month and day, and everybody on that day can go get the vaccine. And it's like you said before. It's like they're not able to get it out fast enough. That's the whole problem. Yeah, they have one, but it doesn't mean it's going to stop people from dying in any kind of, near future.
Yeah. And they were talking about like what the logistics are like. It would take about 90 days or something to get it out to the general population or something.
Which is not bad. I mean,
it's not bad, but it's bad if you're sick.
Yeah.
Because you might not last that long.
Right.
Particularly with this thing they have. And the people die fairly quickly.
Like days, right? A day or two?
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, I've got it. Oh shit, I'm dead.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'm just reading a little blurb here. So at the beginning of the movie, when it shows Gwyneth Paltrow at the airport, when she calls and she's on the phone with the guy that she slept with, that's actually that's what's his name? That's Soderbergh's voice.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
See, when I first heard it, I thought that was Matt Damon's voice even, which is weird because I'm usually a lot better at voices. I thought she was just talking to her husband.
Yeah.
And then like I realized the dialogue didn't make any sense, but it was a little, I don't know why I was so slow about things clicking for me in this movie, but a lot of stuff I kind of missed, and then it like hit me a little later on, or it didn't even hit me, and then I had to like look up and stuff. I don't know. It's like I was really sluggish watching this movie. Maybe because I just wasn't that into it. I don't know. I don't like Soderbergh's characters. I don't like how he writes people. I don't like how he writes how they talk. And I mean, some of it doesn't really matter who writes it because a lot of it's technical stuff. So it has really nothing to do with having an ear for dialogue. They're just going to babble exposition and stuff. And that's fine. I don't know.
He actually didn't write the...
Bryan Cranston is in this movie. Yeah. He's some sort of military official.
I think he's the higher up of Laurence Fishburne. He's his superior. and Friends.
So the CDC answers to the military?
I don't know, man.
Like I said, I was having trouble understanding the hierarchy in this. So I understand now that the EIC is a branch within the CDC. So it makes sense that Fishburne, who's an official in the CDC, dispatches an agent of the EIC, the EIA or whatever. I got that. But yeah, I think maybe the military only gets brought in these special situations, right? I think it's probably like normally he doesn't report to him, but now that they have like some sort of pandemic situation, that's what I figure it is. I don't think he normally would interact with Cranston. I think it's the circumstances maybe that led to it, probably.
RADM.
If I had to guess.
Title. I don't know what that stands for. RADM.
No.
Is Brian Cranston.
Yeah.
And Fishburne is a doctor.
Yeah, he's in the CDC.
Rear Admiral. Okay, that makes sense.
Ah, very good.
So
yeah, if you look up Contagion on Wikipedia, at the very bottom of the page, somebody's already made a little thing called renewed popularity that says, in 2020, the film received renewed popularity due to the coronavirus pandemic, which bears some resemblance to the pandemic depicted in the film. So somebody already put that on there. Because, yeah, it's spiking places. It was number 4 in Canada yesterday on Netflix. It's probably maybe even higher now.
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, I liked the film before, so it's fine with me. Go ahead and watch it again.
I don't think it's a bad film. I don't know. Could not really get into it.
I watched it night before last, and I watched half of it again because my wife fell asleep, and we finished it. So I saw the second half again last night.
But I do have to give credit where it's due. It is interesting in these circumstances to watch the movie because there's a lot of parallels, a lot of things that are very similar. And you do give credit to the movie where a lot of these honestly, the pandemic movies I'm interested in aren't realistic. You know? Right. They've got like people turning into flesh-eating monsters or something of that nature. But I mean, it's scary enough. Death is death.
Yeah, I mean it's just realistic enough to make it scary, you know, like actually scary.
Yeah. And there's some interesting stuff about the death in this too, because when Beth dies, that's Gwyneth Paltrow, the funeral home refuses to bury her in like their plot because they're worried about contagion. They're worried about people getting infected. And actually, when Mears, one of our heroes, dies, she's buried in a fucking mass grave.
Right.
Which, you know. You just feel bad for anybody that gets married in a mass grave. But yeah, you think she should get like a goddamn monument for her sacrifice.
And she's like wrapped up in cellophane or something too.
Yeah, and just dumped anonymously in this big grave.
One of the guys says, when did we run out of body bags? And he's like, a couple days ago. So they're not even using body bags anymore. They're just wrapping them in some sort of plastic. Which, I mean, is that what they do in a situation like that? Like, what did they do during like the Spanish flu, as far as deaths go?
With bodies?
Yeah,
well, I think they were supposed to burn them or something.
Yeah,
I might be wrong because I mean that's what they did with the fucking plague.
It sounds terrible, but I mean it's really desperate times call for desperate measures, right? Let's get rid of the thing. You kill destroy that body. Disease is gone. Because I'm sure, like, even a dead body can infect people.
Yeah, I'm trying to find what. But ironically, China was one of the places least affected by the Spanish flu. It happened. Not that they didn't have that. I mean, everywhere had cases. But I'm trying to find a thing about.
And swine flu was about a decade ago, the early 2000s. Is that when that was going on?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why people were a little slow about this one, because like that was a whole lot of nothing.
Well, I mean, it killed like 60,000 Americans.
That many Americans? Wow.
Yeah, and
I don't remember anything about it here.
A lot of people got it. As you said, it has a much lower death rate, but it just like my brother had it.
Oh wow.
And I think they gave him like Tamiflu or something, and he said it was pretty bad, and he felt better the next day. So
I can't find anything about what they did with the dead. I know it's somewhere there.
Yeah, I know it wasn't good, whatever it was.
Yeah. And the other thing that makes the Spanish flu mysterious is it's never been confirmed what the source was.
Really?
There's theories, but they're kind of really divergent in points of origin.
Yeah,
There's a couple people that said it started in Kansas. There's a couple of people that said it started in France. So
it's got kind of Spanish is what it was.
Yeah, it's never good to attach that to the name. That's kind of unfortunate, isn't it?
Damn bastards!
Stupid Spaniards.
I mean, it's what we used to do before we gave them these fancy letters and numbers.
Yeah.
Because what is the Rocky Mountain spotted fever?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah.
Even Lyme disease, I think, is tied to wherever it was first discovered or whatever. There's a bunch of them if you look through history, the diseases that were named after, wherever they came from or first discovered or whatever.
Let's see if I can find the actual death toll here.
This damn Chinese virus.
Yeah, and here's another thing. This is all over the place. The death toll is estimated to have been anywhere from 17 million to 50 million, and possibly as high as 100 million.
That's a big gap, isn't it?
I guess it's because the thing is, like, there were people that died indirectly from it. Like, it weakened their immune systems, and then they died of other things, I guess, is maybe is how it works.
Complications of.
Anyway, it's one of the deadliest epidemics in human history.
This is Spanish flu?
Yeah. Like I said, we just had a world war, and this killed more people by far.
Wow, that is crazy. That was a bad war, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first real world war, right? One that affected, multiple continents. World War I gets a bad rap about its devastation. In the context of how interesting war is. People always seem to gloss over it and just jump to World War II. Yeah, World War II had Hitler and the Holocaust, and it had two nukes. So it had those things, right? It had Hitler, the Holocaust, two nukes. But World War I had all sorts of crazy shit in it too, and people kind of gloss over it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's been something I specialized in. I wrote a big paper for it in grade 12, and then I kind of went from there. I'm not an expert by anything, but it's always been something. It's of all the wars that I know about, it's kind of the one I've dug the most into. Probably because what interests me the most about it is how it started. How it started is really fascinating. The crazy domino effect, because there was a world war. And you think that would shock the world, but for at least 10 years before it happened, everybody kind of knew it was coming. Like, not everybody, but anybody that was tuned into that sort of thing, there were tons of people that predicted it, way before it happened. And again, they didn't predict exactly, but they predicted a massive conflict that would involve all of Europe and even other powers, and they were right.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you would really enjoy that 1917 movie, probably then.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's just another one of those trench warfare movies, we need to see. That's good, because we need to see, because that's the other thing. Again, it was a massive war with many fronts. But every time we think about the World War I, we think of the Western Front with the trench warfare, which was very important. But there was other stuff. There were other things going on. There were other fronts. But anyway,
that's a big thing for me. I think trench warfare is boring. It's a lot of sitting around and waiting. I mean, as far as film and stuff goes, for entertainment value.
Yeah. But I mean, a huge turning point in history of everything and war and stuff. And it wasn't the first war with machine guns and stuff, but it was the first truly mechanized warfare. And it was the first time that really brought about how random war can be, because for all these centuries, even though, yes, years ago, you could be a great soldier, still catch an arrow, still now, and this is just a reality we live in now, and it was really got cemented in World War I. It'd be you could be the most badass, amazing soldier there is, and it wouldn't matter at all because of the way you can die in a war. Because literally in World War I was the first time where they had guns. They could shoot at you from miles away and kill you. You could just have no idea at all that death was coming, just and stuff. And that's really, shook up everybody's idea about war, because, people had ideas about glory and all these things. And I mean, anybody can get disillusioned because any war is hellacious, but 20th century really brought home the notion that, there's very little glory to be found in the way, just how random and crazy death it can be.
So your ability as a fighter or, a warrior has nothing to do with, you're living or dying.
Right. I mean,
your ability to fight.
Right. In some context, yes, but in other contexts, none. Like you could be, again, you could have been the best, most exceptional soldier, that had come up through the ranks, really great physical, really great marksmanship, really great durability, really great decision making, and it could all just mean absolutely nothing. You'd be the first guy dead because of the way weapons were employed and such back then.
Well, think about it now. We've got like these computer guys like basically playing video games. They're flying drones and killing people, across the world.
Yeah. War becomes more and more impersonal.
It's yeah. And they're probably like the people that, 200 years ago would have died first in war,
Yeah.
Like physically,
Mm-hmm. But yeah, how impersonal war has become is the other thing that worries people, because it used to be if you were going to kill your enemy, you had to like get up close and fight him.
Yeah.
Now it's just like he's somebody on a screen. He's a target on a screen. You push a button and he's gone. It's very dehumanizing, right? You don't even really think of them as people.
Sure.
But yeah, I will see 1917 because there aren't enough movies about World War I. So, and it has gotten very good reviews. So I'll definitely check it out. I was going to see it in theater and got sidetracked.
Yeah, I thought it was a little overrated myself, but I was really impressed with the way it was shot, and there was a lot of stuff that I was like, man, that's got to be a drone. There's no way they're doing that with a crane, and because it's just long shots that are just moving long distances, and the whole thing's intended to be one take, but it's not. Mm-hmm. But it's like hidden around like corners and stuff, and but yeah, it's definitely one to check out. But yeah, back to this film. I don't know, man. I just really like the way they tell the story. I like the way it jumps around from different perspectives. I think that's probably my favorite thing about it.
Probably my favorite thing about it too, because I like a lot of stories that do that,
yeah.
And I like a lot of books that do it. I like, for instance, that's why I like The Stand so much. The Stand doesn't have one main character; it has a bunch of main characters, and it jumps around them.
Right.
But unlike, I just don't particularly care for the characters in this movie. I don't think they were bad. I just, I don't know. I should watch it again, but none of the characters made much of an impression on me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Laurence Fishburne's character gives up his vaccine to the boy's the janitor's son, or
I don't even think I knew that happened.
The custodian,
because I knew that was a part of his janitor like shamed him because his janitor overheard him telling his wife, and he's like, I've got people I care about too, Doc. Right. Okay, so I missed that entirely that he did that.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston gives him the test kits, and he's like, why don't you go ahead and take it now? And he's like, no, I think, his wife or girlfriend, whatever, wants to do it together. I think she wants to do it over some champagne or something. So he gives the kid his test or his vaccine, and Fishburne puts the bracelet on. And he tells the guy, he's like, yeah, I can't give him the bracelet, but at least, he won't get sick.
I probably saw that. I can't even remember it. I watched this last night. What was I doing? Maybe I was reading at something at the time.
The guy who plays the dad is awesome because I always think of the
janitor.
Yeah. What did I say?
I know I've seen him in something before.
Oh yeah,
you said the dad. Yeah, he is the dad, but the janitor. Okay, yeah.
The janitor.
I know I've seen him. Yeah.
He was the liquor store clerk and from Dusk Till Dawn. Do you remember?
Ah. Yeah, I remember that scene. Really good scene.
Yeah. Says I can't remember his line, but it's really funny because he's the one that shoots Quentin in the hand.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those where like Rodriguez, it's just like a hail of bullets. Like this gun never runs out of bullets. His handgun shoots like 45, 50 bullets.
Oh yeah, always the John Woo school.
Yeah, John Woo does a little bit more, but it's still entertaining nonetheless.
I mean, there are some good examples of foreshadowing in the movie that like pay off later. Things that are said early in the thing that pay off a little later that I like. There's a part where Jude Law's character is telling this other, says to somebody, "Print media is dying. I'll save you a spot on the bus or something." And he says that to the reporter, and then the reporter does die. And it's basically because part of it is because of the lie he told about the forsythia being a cure, or not he. It was a woman. It was a woman who died. She gets infected at a clinic that was handing out the forsythia. So there's a few foreshadowing moments in that. Plus, there's a whole thing about like how he says that he was cured, but he's still walking around in a hazmat suit for parts of the film.
Yeah, for most of the film, he's wearing this like huge inflatable suit.
Yeah, exactly. Even after he was supposedly cured. I'll get one thing that shocked me was like they just went right to it with like the autopsy on Beth's character. They just show like her face and then like her skull like pulled down over. I was like, Jesus, I was not expecting that.
And this guy says, "Should I call somebody?" He says, "Call everybody."
Yeah.
Call everyone, something like that.
Yeah, I wonder how Demetri Martin wound up in this movie. Yeah, I always wonder about people like that because Demetri Martin, he's shown up as an actor and things, but he's a comedian, and comedians do get roles here and there. But he's not one of those like for instance, he's not a comedian that's like had his own movie. Actually, he has, but it's not like it wasn't like in theaters or anything. I'm pretty sure there is some sort of movie where he's a main guy in, but
I'm not familiar with his stand-up, honestly.
His stand-up's really different. It's kind of like free association thinking.
Oh, really?
You should watch it. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's really interesting because it's unlike like most stand-up and stuff like that requires you tell your story and you inflect it. He has almost no inflection. Like everything is just really calm and flat, but it works for what he's giving. It's just basically him giving out like, here are some thoughts that I find odd and strange and interesting. Yeah, it's good stuff. He actually had a brief show of his own called like important things or interesting things and stuff. And there'd be like a theme for the episode and he'd go around it. And a lot of his stuff is visual. He uses charts and stuff. I think he's good. I've lost track of him lately, but he was different. He was different. I'll give him that. Like you couldn't compare really another comedian to him. I mean, you think of that. Was Doug Stanhope the guy that would like just sort of like say like one joke and then say another joke? It was just all like one-liner shit. Who was that guy? He's dead now.
Oh, no, that's not Stanhope. Stanhope's still alive.
Okay. So, the guy who's anyway, you know how that guy he would just say a blah 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 set up a blah 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 joke and then move on. Like Demetri Martin's kind of like that, but still pretty different. And it's not always just one and one. He has a very different delivery from most comedians. I'll give him that. It's just sort of like geeky, nerdy observation stuff. I don't know. It's good. I like it. It appeals to me.
Bill Hicks.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks is dead, but I know it wasn't Bill Hicks. Anyway, some guy, I can't remember his name.
Oh, Mitch Hedberg. That's who it was.
That's the guy, yeah. So, but that's probably not a good example, except that his stuff is short and to the point. That's sort of, but at the same time, he can expand on bigger ideas. So I don't know. He has a very unique delivery. I'll give him that, Demetri Martin. Can't really compare him to anybody as far as that goes. But yeah, he used a lot of visual stuff. Often he would use visual aids like charts or he would just draw things.
Yeah, it's that younger generation of comics that I'm not too familiar with. I'm familiar with most of the people that I'm a big fan of are my age or right around my age. And they're really just coming into fame, most of them.
Yeah, mine are kind of all over the place, I guess. My favorite for like, since I cared about stand-up has probably been David Cross, and he's quite a bit older than me.
That's true. Yeah, I like David Cross. Yeah, he was like in that first wave of the alt scene.
Like my favorite, like sort of current comedian who's blown up is John Mulaney, and he's like my age. John Mulaney's like 1 year older than me, maybe, so we're basically the same generation.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's blown up because usually things I like don't get that popular. So I guess I'm happy for him.
Usually things I like get canceled or closed down or go away somehow.
Especially food. All food I like gets discontinued and gone. Man. There's like a special flavor of something or something like that I liked, it's gone.
Stock up because it's going away. Yeah. That's how my luck is, I think.
It just feels personal sometimes. I remember like a span of just a couple of months, like losing several things that like I always like to eat, and it's like they're all gone. Yeah. But yeah, glad for John Mulaney's popularity. Mm-hmm. He's already like hosted SNL again, which is weird.
Oh yeah,
he's a writer on SNL, and then he hosted it, but then he came back really fast and hosted it again, which is kind of odd. I don't know what the record is for least time between appearances, but that's got to be up there because it was only like 3 months maybe.
It's got to be like Tom Hanks or somebody. Like I remember he hosted all the time in like the 90s.
I wish they would branch out with their hosts. Like it's 90% actors. Like I realize actors are the best people for it, and it gets painful. Like when you get like, I mean, Wayne Gretzky hosted it once. I don't think that was a good idea. But I'm just saying, I don't know. There's a lot of like writers and stuff who write this stuff. I mean, John Mulaney's kind of proof, except he was an SNL writer himself. I'm just saying, I wish writers from other places would get it. I've always been baffled that Kevin Smith never got to host it. You'd think he would have been like up somebody kind of hot at one point, and he would have fit in well.
He still is. I mean, I'm sure he's been asked to. He probably just doesn't have any desire.
Yeah, maybe he's just turned it down. It's too bad. I mean, again, it's weird. My relationship with SNL, I've never exactly been a fan, but I do habitually watch it if it's on, if I'm around for it.
I was a very big fan of the cast before the one they have right now, like Bill Hader and
Bill Hader and Andy Samberg were great. I didn't really like the other cast. Bill Hader to me is the best cast member of like the last 20 years, easy. Love Bill Hader.
It was the Bill Hader age, and then like the before them was like I can't think of the name.
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, and then before them was
so that like end of the 90s, start of the 2000s is probably the era I watched the most, but it's not the era I like the best. Like a lot of people usually it's like whatever you were a certain age for. Because I mean, when I really started watching the show, it was like Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan and Horatio Sanz and I don't know, Maya Rudolph or whatever. And I'm not particularly into that cast. Like it's fine. Like I don't dislike it, but it's not. Although my favorite sketch from all time, and it's like a lot of people's favorite sketch. I'm not unique, and this does come from that. It's the Blue Oyster Cult sketch, the More Cowbell. I do still believe that is the best sketch ever, and I mean that's got Will Ferrell, and he's really what makes it. But it's got Horatio Sanz, possibly Chris Kattan, I can't remember, and Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah,
Jimmy Fallon's there. As he acknowledged years later, he's like, I laughed and ruined it like I did so many sketches. But I don't know.
That was kind of his thing, him and Horatio like cracking up in the middle of a scene or a sketch.
I've never watched Jimmy Kimmel like his late night show. I'm not a late night show person. I've never liked that format or been that interested in it.
I mean, I did when I was a kid, strangely enough. I liked like Johnny Carson. I was a huge fan of.
I don't even think he was on by the time I started watching stuff. I mean, Conan was everybody I knew loved Conan. They never shut up about him. Like people so I started watching. Yeah, I appreciate it, but I don't think I ever liked it the same way other people did. So if I had to pick a late night host I like best, Conan. But that's more like because I watched him more than anybody else.
I watched a lot of Letterman. I never liked Jay Leno at all.
Not a Leno fan either. Like he seems like a nice guy, but he's not particularly funny.
But it's just like when you get so used to the formula, it's like, okay, I've got this person on, they're promoting this, and then the band, it's just it's never made for entertainment. It's made to promote shit, and that's kind of what.
I mean, I think Conan did mix that up every once in a while because he would have some really weird segments, which I appreciate, which I guess I could appreciate.
Like the masturbating bear.
Yeah. And I like stuff when he went out and did stuff because it shows like the difference between him and Leno. Because I think Leno is a comedian and he's funny, but I don't think he's like funny all the time. Whereas like Conan could react to whatever situation was around him and make quips and jokes, which is not easy to do. Yeah, exactly. Like I think of myself as a witty guy, but at the same time, I know there's certain situations where I'm like, I can't think of a good line or a good joke for this moment. I should have thought of it, but I don't know. I'm still quicker than other people. I used to do improv my first couple of years of university, as embarrassing as that is. To say that I was in an improv group for 2 years, And I think I was probably the best person besides the guy that founded it. We had some really great things. We had some really great ones that I really remember well. Actually, and there was another guy. He wasn't there very often, but remember in Dazed and Confused, the guy with the glasses, and he wound up hooking up. So there was a guy in the group that looked and sounded exactly like him, and he was really good. And he and I were really good together. I remember one of our only performances for like, I don't know, like 10 people showed up to watch or something. I don't even remember what it was, but I mean, I remember it was a thing like where I was his psychiatrist and he was, you know, on the couch and stuff like that. I don't know. I can't really remember exactly beat for beat how it went, and me telling it doesn't work. But we work really well, and like he seemed to pick up on my cues for a part where I started like talking about my own problems, and he instantly knew to switch, where he got up and took the pen and made me lie down, and now he was, you know, he was the one administering therapy to me and stuff. There's all sorts of good stuff like that he did. It's hard to remember. Another good one was, you know, those ones where you control somebody or somebody else controls your arms or something like that. Did this thing about two guards on the top of a castle watching while other people control your arms. That was a good one. I remember us doing that. But yeah, no, it is kind of embarrassing because like improv is really hit or miss. So it can be really good or really awful. And, you know, we were all amateurs, and some of the people in the group are just terrible. You know, I can't. Yeah. You know, they were there to learn and have fun, and I'm not in the whole point. You know, we weren't professionals, and nobody was coming to watch our performances, so it didn't matter. But we have a few people that were so bad, it was just they just dragged everything down.
That's something you can probably hone your skill in, but that's going to be a little bit of natural ability involved. So,
right,
you know, if you're not the person that can think on their feet like that,
that's what I mean. But by the time it was over, you could divide up very quickly who was good at it and who wasn't. And I counted myself as good. I'm not saying great or anything, or I could have done professionally. No. But I was one of the better people, and it was really difficult working with the people that aren't good because they just drag everything down. We have one guy in particular who was really bad, and he was super enthusiastic and wanted to be in everything. He was just awkward and terrible. And
I always think of The Office. You know, Michael Scott was in an improv group, and he would always like pull a gun. He was like, "I've got a gun," you know, and just totally fuck
That's
up.
right. That was like he would put it for every sketch. Was he would pull a gun? Yeah, totally I saw that. I remember that. Yeah, it was the same thing. Like this guy, like he had various gimmicks and things he thought was funny, and he was just committed to them, and he would bring them up over and over again. It was the same sort of deal. So that's actually a pretty good example of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do stand up myself, but I can't.
Sometimes I think of stand up while I'm like in the tub or something like that, and then when I go to like write it down, I've forgotten it all.
I have a problem writing jokes. That's my problem.
Like I had this really good thing about people finding like people who talk about. I had this bit that I was going to make. It was about how, you know, people sometimes talk about how they weren't religious, but then they were in a motel room or something, and they stumbled across the Bible and they started reading. And they got really religious, and I had this whole thing about like, what part did you open the book up at? And it was, you know, going into some stuff about that because, like, you know, how much of the Bible is actually very, not at all whimsical or happy, but very, you know, disturbing and stuff like that. But
yeah, definitely.
I had like 5 minutes of material on that, but now I don't remember it anymore.
What's the deal with the King James Version?
The problem with stand-up is I think I can write jokes for it, but stand-up is all about timing and flow.
Yeah.
And I'd find myself in like the setup is way too long. That's the thing. Right. You set up too long, you lose the audience. You have to have a beat and a joke here and here. Unless you're a really well-established comedian anyway. Like if you're a really super well-established comedian, you've already gotten a bunch of jokes, you can tell a long-winded story with a long setup. The audience stays with you. They know a payoff's coming. But if you're just somebody up there for the first time, you can't go like 30 seconds with nothing just to get to it. Like, and so that's hard. So that's a really hard thing. It's something I really respect about comedians because it's like, yeah, like some of the jokes aren't that great and I think I come up with them, but it's just how you tell them and get to them. Like the path to them is very difficult because you have to keep a rhythm going. And if you lose your rhythm, you're fucked.
Famous female comedian. I can't think of her name right off, but I laugh every 5 seconds, I believe.
Not 5. That's hard.
Yeah, it's fucking hard. Shit. Not oh fuck. I can't even think.
How old are we talking?
Old.
I don't know. Rita Rudner.
Older than that.
Older than that.
Not who was the one that just died like last year, year before? Not her, but in that age.
Carrie Fisher. I don't know.
Oh fuck, you would know. She had a show with her daughter. Rivers, Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers. Yeah.
Not Joan Rivers, but of that era.
Oh, of that era. I don't know. I was gonna say Joan Rivers. She was an acquired taste.
Oh, she was a funny lady.
I always thought of her kind of as one note, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't see enough of her. Maybe I only saw her when she was a lot older. Maybe I didn't see enough of her prime or whatever.
She kind of became a parody of herself a little bit, if that makes any sense. Well,
it makes sense when you're somebody who's such a notable character. It happens,
like Christopher Walken playing Christopher Walken.
Yeah, it happens to so many people. If you have like a dynamic personality, it's great. But once you are out there in the public eye long enough, it's very hard to like not become a parody of yourself because people just they expect this version of you.
Like, take my wife, please. Stuff like that.
Yeah. I've always been interested in comedy and stuff. That's like I said why I was watching the Mrs. Maisel show. I got off it, but I'll get back to it because even though there's huge parts of the show that are boring and I don't care about, I like it when they actually break down like the comedy because I like breaking down anything creative, and that sort of stuff interests me.
It's really interesting to know that you watch a big stand-up special. These people have workshopped that set for 6 months, a year, however long. Some people longer than others.
And I would never. And it takes such guts because, like, think of like the best comedians they've all had horrible early times where like they died and where they were heckled, and I couldn't live through. I could not do that, man. Trying to think of a really good early story that I was watching. You probably saw this. It was one with what's his name? Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt was telling a story about his early days. In the early 90s, he said, like, believe it or not, a big draw in the early 90s were like comedians who were like actually more magicians than comedians. They would do like magic, but like a funny thing meant to it. And he said, so I had to open for one of these guys. And his big thing was like, he would like have like this thing of tricks, he would like do his trick and then he'd like throw it down in the thing so it doesn't make a mess on the stage. And there was this thing, it was like there's some shit gig. It's like the guy was getting paid like $50 and I was getting paid like $30, $25. I don't know, something like that. Or maybe he was gonna get 75. And he's like, anyway, before the show, like the promoter or the club guy came to them and said, okay, you were supposed to get 75 and you were supposed to get 25, but actually you're gonna get like 50 and you're gonna get, I don't know, 20 or something like that, like reduced. Right. And Patton Oswalt was like, I really needed that money. And I wasn't anybody, so I didn't say anything. But this guy was mad. He said, but he still did the show. And he said, here's how he did the show. He said, I stayed in the back. And all he did was like every time he took out like his thing to show the trick. And his presentation was like this. He'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah. Okay, and he throw it down, and he just like glared at the audience through the whole thing, and just sort of like hate them the whole thing, and nobody was laughing, of course, because all he did was like glare and like this. Except Patton Oswalt thought it was funny, so he was laughing. Yeah. So people started turning around and looking at Patton Oswalt and thinking that this was somehow tied into what the guy was doing, and they thought it was some sort of bizarre performance art. I always thought that was really funny.
Oh, that's hilarious because it's not comedy and he's sitting there laughing his ass off.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention this is after his set, right? So he had open for him. So he said his set was like, so I do my set, boo, silence, and I get off the stage. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how I could handle that, but yeah, it's interesting. It gives you a little hope because he's so successful now, but like they all had such rough starts.
Well, those guys, they started off when comedy was huge in the early 90s.
Yeah, those clubs were popping up all over the place.
And but
there was lots of competition too, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, anybody and their mother could be a stand-up then.
Yeah, they talk about it a little bit, and I mean, you know better than me, the Seinfeld show. Because in the Seinfeld show, sometimes they make reference to like what the scene is like, and that Banya guy or whatever his name is, that shit comedian that he can't stand,
who was doing so well at one point.
Yeah, I wonder who that's like. Was in real life, it's based on somebody like some comedian that Seinfeld knew in the early days that he thought sucked but was really popular for some reason. I'm sure that was somebody
like Ovaltine. Why did they call it Roundtine?
He's like, that whole bit about Ovaltine, it totally killed Jerry. It's like, what?
And then Jerry came out before him and just sucked. Like he wore the Robin Williams suspenders, the rainbow suspenders.
Yeah, because he was trying to tank him, right? He's like, I'll do Terry. And then they'll hate him, and it just totally backfired.
His whole theory was that he was only getting laughs because Jerry had a good set. He was following Jerry.
Yeah, he's like, I warmed them
up. I gotta go watch that again. Love that show so much.
But yeah, I like stuff that focuses on like the creative process of anything, but comedy too. That's another one of them. So yeah, I'm always really interested when they talk about the early days or the genesis of trying things out and stuff. And yeah, so that's why every once in a while, I think up like material that might last for a few minutes, and then it kind of like falls apart.
Yeah,
I'm like, this sounded so good in my head,
Well, that was
which is kind of just like my normal writing in some ways. Lots of stuff I think up sounds really good, and then I type it up, and then I'm reading it, and I'm like, this doesn't work,
Yeah.
So that I think it just applies to almost anything, right? Music too, I'm sure.
Everything creatively, I do that in. It sounds great in my head, and I put it on paper, and it's garbage.
All these misfires.
Yeah. But I was going to say those comedians, that started in the early '90s. They had that big boom where they all did so great. You think of the David Tells, the Brian Poseins, those guys. Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. Like, it was such a good scene there for them. And I remember, Comedy Central was huge. I had tons of stand-up shows that I watched, and then the whole scene just went away for some reason. I don't know why, but like all the clubs closed down for the most part, except for big cities, that still had the big club stayed. But and then we've had the boom again, in the past decade of this. I mean, look, Netflix is putting out a new
like Funny or Die and stuff seem to really get that going.
Putting out a new stand-up special like every week now.
I know. I've never even heard of like 90% of these people.
Which is great. I mean, that's how I discover a lot of comedians. But
that's how I discovered John Mulaney, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Well, I take that back. It was on the Kroll Show. That's where I found out about him.
And then I went back, and then I don't know. It was funny because just around the time he was becoming successful in 2015, I was watching. Again, it only lasted 2 seasons and it wasn't even like 2 full seasons, but Jim Gaffigan show. And one of the funny bits about a Jim Gaffigan show is that John Mulaney's on it as himself too. But he's always sort of like this, like, he's kind of like this smug prick in it. It's pretty funny.
I've never seen the show.
Yeah, you should watch. It was on Prime for me.
It probably still is, yeah.
Because like there's several standalone episodes, but the interesting episodes, there's this part where it's like he hears from Will Ferrell that Will Ferrell wants him to do like a sitcom, and he wants John Mulaney to work on it with him, and Adam Goldberg. Yeah, Adam Goldberg actually doesn't play himself. He plays a fictionalized version of himself, but he's a comedian named Dave Marks, and the idea is like he's like Jim's best friend, but obviously he's the big contrast. Like, Jim does his safe comedy that's like G-rated and all about food, and Dave Marks is the edgy comedian with all like the sex and profanity and stuff like that. And the whole thing is about how suddenly it flips and becomes it becomes Dave Marks' show instead. It's pretty good. John Mulaney's there too. It's pretty funny. But yeah, and the whole thing is all supposed to be like brought together by Will Ferrell. That's probably the best part of the show. It's like the end. It's like the arc at the end of season 1. Going into the start of season 2, I think it's pretty funny. Standalone episodes are good too. They are good for what they are. Michael Ian Black's on the show. He's pretty good in it.
Did you ever watch Mulaney's sitcom?
Not yet, but I definitely want to.
I think it was just called Mulaney.
Yeah, I definitely have to track it down. Said I don't even like kids, and I loved his kids special. I've watched that like 5 times.
Kids special. I don't think
it's called John Mulaney. It's on Netflix too. It's called John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. It's basically just like an homage to his love of like those kids like specials from like the 70s and 80s. So it's like that. It's kind of like a Sesame Street vibe, right? It's like he comes and he like meets up with them and says, "Hey, Sack," and there's like 10 kids. There's like Sack Lunch Bunch, and and then they do sketches and songs, and they're all really good. Children's singing is not something I generally enjoy, but I enjoy in this. The kids are all super talented too, right? They got really good kids. And it's an interesting mix because some of it is just them talking to the camera and it's obviously not scripted. It's just them getting real reactions from the kids, but it's also mixed in with the scripted stuff and it really blurs the line. Like at one point he's even like with the kids and one of them says, "John, I've been wondering, what's the tone of this show?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" It's like, "Well, are we being like really serious about everything? Like really trying hard? Is this tongue in cheek or what?" And he's like, well, the trick to that is if everybody really likes it, we'll say, yeah, totally serious. But if people think it's like, not that good or cheesy or something, we just say, oh no, that's what we're going for anyway. He's like, yeah, see, we went either way. It's pretty good. But yeah, I'd recommend that. It's about an hour long. It's on Netflix. But it's really familiar, especially for people like you and I, because you remember that era like what Sesame Street was like back then, and some of the other stuff too, and some of that Schoolhouse Rock stuff is kind of in there, that kind of stuff. And he says that right at the beginning. He's like, this because I watched some of the children's programming now, and I did not like it. So I drew the conclusion that it was better back when I was a kid, and that's more or less what this is, except with weird humor thrown in. Fucking David Byrne is in it and does a song with one of the kids. And they must be friends now too, because that last time John Mulaney hosted the show, David Byrne was the musical guest, and he did like a Talking Heads song, and it blew my mind. And all you can think is like, there's got to be so many like young people that have no idea what this is or what's going on. Again, I'm not trying to be one of those ageist people either, because technically I'm too young. It's not like I remember Talking Heads from back in the day. I wasn't born, but I mean, I'm a big music historian, so
right.
I'll do it. But anyway, I'd recommend that. It's fun. So yeah, I'm not into kids singing or anything, but these are all really talented kids that can really fucking sing, and they're good songs, and they're funny too, obviously. So definitely worth a watch. I also like it, I guess, because it's the kind of thing that I would do if I was in that position too. Like, that's something I would want to do. John Mulaney went ahead and did it. If I could just like had the power, it's like, I'm going to make some sort of like weird after school special with my weird humor and make the kids sing.
Such an odd concept.
It is, but I like it. I wish he would do another one, but probably, comedians don't want to repeat themselves. So I doubt he'd do another one. But those kids, I hope they go on to do other things. So he definitely got a very talented bunch. And very racially diverse, as you might expect.
Right. Just think of like Sesame Street and shit. Ugh.
I've always liked Sesame Street. I mean, I don't like modern Sesame Street, but it was good back in the early days. I know, once again, nostalgia goggles, but the show accomplished what it set out to do. It's not just a bunch of random nonsense. It does teach children things, or at least it did. It taught me things. It taught people things. It held people's... I especially hate how nowadays Sesame Street's only a half hour. It used to be a full hour.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it was a half hour.
It's only been a half hour for like the last 10, 15 years or something, which I think is ridiculous. And they say, oh, kids and extension spans. I'm like, what the fuck? Kids didn't have much extension spans back then. I remember looking forward to it because it was an hour. That was one of the benefits of the show. I thought, most shows I watch are a half hour and they have commercials. This is a full hour with no goddamn commercials. Here we go. Like, I was really enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. Would they cut out the musical acts or something?
I don't know what the hell they did. They've also like made it less random too. Like now, like it's more kind of like an episode of a normal show, and that it kind of follows like more of a storyline structure. Whereas in the ones I used to watch, 70s, 80s, early 90s, there might be a story woven in through it, but there's all sorts of just random shit in there too.
Oh yeah.
Because that was the point, right? Because they said, one of the things we found that the kids respond to is like, we'll make the stuff like commercials, except instead of being bullshit to sell kids toys and stuff, it'll actually be something to teach them. And it totally worked. And I mean, they had child psychologists and everything all involved. It was, this wasn't just a bunch of shit they threw to see what would stick. It was, one of the things I thought was most interesting was in the early days when they started using the Muppets, originally the child psychologists were saying, okay, it's okay to use these puppets, but make sure that they don't interact with the human characters. Keep them separate or the kids will get confused. But they threw that out the window. And of course, some of the best stuff is the humans interacting with the Muppets. So they actually got that wrong early, and then they corrected it. I don't know why they would think that. They were worried that the kids would get confused about what's real and what's not or something.
Because they knew Elmo was a rapist.
Jesus. I mean, at least that doesn't bother me because I always hated Elmo. So
I always hated Elmo too.
Super annoying character.
A little bit. He
became so popular for some reason. He was like a breakout character. Ugh, terrible character. And of course, I've always loved the Muppets. So it's one of the things I like about having Disney Plus is I've got all the Muppet stuff. I've been watching the 2015 show that only lasted one season. It was so good, called The Muppets. Man, that was a good show.
I know they had that.
It was on ABC in 2015. I should have watched it then. I should have supported it, although I don't think I would have saved it by being one person watching it. But it definitely deserved more.
Great.
What's that? Oh, the originals. Nothing beats that. And this one, it's not the variety show. The thing is, it's Miss Piggy has her own talk show, and they all work on it, is what it is. And of course, it's full of like celebrities and stuff. But it's good. Nothing can recapture the magic of the original show, which I again adored as a kid. And it was more for adults than kids, really.
Of course.
Some ways. But I loved it as a kid anyway.
Has Disney always owned the Muppets?
No, it's just another thing that they, bought at some point.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's not one of their later things like Marvel. Like they had it way before like Marvel. And they might have bought it sometime in the late '90s or something.
It was like a standalone thing at one point, though, right? Like Jim Henson's owned it.
As I said many times when I whine about Disney and things buying everything, I miss the world where properties were separate from each other. Now everything's just blurred. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's great that they can go to Disney World and they can see it. They can go to Disney World and besides Mickey and Donald, they can see Darth Vader, Spider-Man, and Kermit. But to me, I'm like, those are not the same things, But whatever.
There's been talks of Apple buying Disney.
I don't think it'll happen.
I don't think it'll happen either because I think of all the money they've invested in the Disney World and Disneyland, those properties. Or what? I guess would that be included or would that be separate?
I don't know. I mean, these deals are so massive and so complicated. I'm dumb when it comes to these things. I don't even understand small transactions. So, but as evil as Disney is in a lot of ways, you got to give them credit right now. Like when all their parks and stuff close, they're paying all their employees.
Are they? So, that's nice.
So I know there's so many stories of shitty things Disney's have done over the years, and there's many, but at least right now they're doing a good thing as far as that goes in this current situation.
Yeah, I've talked to people that have worked for Disney before and have said it's pretty rough.
Oh yeah. People in the parks, oh my God, they got terrible conditions and stuff. Like, people, especially people that like work in the costumes, all these rules they have and they can't have bathroom breaks and how they don't clean the costume enough and all sorts of terrible things.
Yeah.
But since all that's been exposed, I think, not out of the goodness of their hearts, but because it's been exposed, I think Disney has made some policy changes there because, their image. So I think it's better now than it was. But yeah, there was a time not too long ago where it was really rough, as she said. It's always hard, reconciling the love I have for the company and the things that it brought to me. And the things it still is bringing, and then, the reality of it being a business run by flawed people, sometimes greedy people. And, just when anything's big enough, it's pretty difficult.
It just sucks, when they slap their name on it, it's going to immediately mean it's successful. And
I know. The name used to mean quality. Now it doesn't. Now it means whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, man. When they acquired Pixar, they acquired this, that, the other. I mean, at what point does it become a fucking monopoly, man? I mean, at what point do we draw the line? They bought Marvel, they bought Star Wars, they bought Fox, for God's sakes.
And I'm not just mad at them. That's what I mean. Can't somebody like Fox say we're not for sale? Like, what the hell, man?
But Fox likes money.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I mean. You're already making money, but here's somebody offering you more money so they can buy it and control it. I don't know. Yeah. It's the same thing I think of as a writer. I'd like to think that if I wrote something that was, really good and popular, that if some marketer or whatever came along and said, we'll buy the rights to that, I'd say fuck off. But maybe I would. Maybe I'd be like, I'll take my lump sum and leave.
Yeah.
I'd at least like to think that maybe if I did that, I would do it much later in life. Like, I can't remember if it was Laird or Eastman, but one of the two Ninja Turtles guys, he did it, but he did it eventually. He was one of the co-creators of Ninja Turtles. He was part of it. It wasn't until quite a few years in that he said, okay, I'm selling my part and I'll move on from it. I can't remember. It was either if it was Laird or Eastman.
Not the bald guy, the other one.
Yeah. But I mean, he did that after being like super involved and part of it for years. I don't mind that as much. It's not like, in 1987 when they're like, we're going to make a show and it's becoming huge and we'll give you tons of money. And he just was like, yes, like at least he like,
Well, and then Laird sold it to like Nickelodeon or somebody, didn't he? He sold it to somebody.
I don't know.
I mean, he doesn't own it anymore. Yeah.
He doesn't own it anymore either. Okay.
He may still have a title or something there, but he doesn't own the property. It was when they rebooted.
And again, I don't mind that. I mind that, but I don't mind as much because it's been like 30-some years. But
yeah, I mean, I guess you feel like you've done everything that you can with the property, and someone makes you an offer, like, okay, well, how about if we add another zero onto that?
Yeah, I know.
It starts to become something you may be interested in.
And I know money always talks, but yeah, I would love someone to just say no to Disney. Like, no, we're doing fine. We're making money with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Like, you hear all these people that blab about how great capitalism. It's not. But we'll say that it is and pretend that it is. One of the things it's supposed to be great about is like having a marketplace and competition. Well, there's no real competition, is there? If the big guys just buy everybody. Competition is what makes everything great. We strive to be better. They strive to be better. Everybody benefits. Well, it gets all wiped out if one of them's just like, I don't want to compete with you anymore. I'm just going to buy you. And you say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's when the government should step in and block that from happening. Like
right.
When Microsoft tried to buy Quicken years ago. Which
they wanted to fix something. They should have fixed the whole cable mess that's in America. The whole point of the cable companies is they're supposed to be competing against each other. But years ago, in backroom deals, all they did was divvy up the country by territory. It's illegal as shit. And they have a monopoly, and that's why Americans and Canadians too, we pay so high for that compared to other parts of the world.
Well, and they're all, the bitches of their content, whatever the NCAA, the NFL, the NHL,
Yeah, exactly.
They're at their mercy. Where if you don't pay me this, you can't show my games or matches or whatever.
Yeah, all this intermingling, I don't think it's good.
Yeah, capitalism's not perfect, but show me a perfect.
Like I don't have a better alternative. I don't like people that think it's great. They're like, it's the greatest system in the world. And sure, yeah, it's great. You know who says that? The people on top.
They're all great in theory. I mean, communism's great in theory, right?
Yeah, in theory, I suppose. There's definitely some things about it that appeal to me.
I mean, it sounds like a great thing. It's just when you factor in, human greed and, the real world scenarios, it doesn't quite translate as well.
Animal Farm. People read Animal Farm. Which actually I do own, or no, don't own. And I hadn't read in years, but about a couple months ago, I got to the library way too early for my session for some reason. So I was like, I didn't have anything with me. So I found Animal Farm kind of by accident and started reading it again. So I was about halfway through before it was time to go. Library's closed now too.
Is it?
Yeah, library's closed. So here, schools are closed. Things like libraries are closed. Various stores are closed, but things like, drugstores and grocery stores will stay open, although maybe with different hours.
Limiting people, maybe, at some point.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going. Technically, I don't think restaurants here are closed, but I think they're doing a thing where they're maybe operating in half capacity. It's not going to matter because nobody's going to want to go anyway. I wouldn't want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing people are closing down just because they're not.
Because there's no business anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
So we're at kind of an interesting point in human history here. And as we said, it's not as bad as something like the Spanish flu. But it's worse than other things. And yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's just weird to be. I mean, we live in a very global community where everything's connected and stuff. But still, it was always different. Something would happen far away and I'd hear about it on Twitter or something and might have some sort of ripple impact. But this is so different. I mean, just live in such different places and we're all going through almost the exact same thing.
Very odd thing. And,
Definitely didn't see it coming. It's one of the downsides, I guess, too, about the more connected world, too. Because imagine, I guess things sort of cancel each other out, right? Like, back when the Black Plague hit, they didn't really have very much when it came to being clean or sterilizing things. And they had terrible medical information. They didn't have much to treat it with or anything. But at the same time, it couldn't take over the whole world because the world was not nearly as connected as it is now. People weren't getting on planes and getting off planes and jumping continents and countries and everything. It still spread quite a bit, but it was at least limited by the world that existed at the time. Now we have much better medical science and medicine, and we're better at cleaning stuff, but now stuff can spread a lot farther just because by virtue of the connected world we live in. So double-edged sword, I suppose.
Wow.
Yeah. Contagion, of course, has a fairly... I was kind of annoyed at the time when it ended, but I guess I realized that was kind of the logical stopping point. Doesn't necessarily need to go the whole way. And instead what it does is it jumps back for the last scene and shows us exactly how the virus translated. It starts with bats in some sort of forest, and the bats had the virus first. The bat is eating something. I think some machine knocks some trees down, and the bats scatter and fly. The bat that's eating something drops it on the ground. A pig picks it up and eats it, and then the pig is one of the pigs that's going to be like slaughtered, and is actually that specific pig is like made into a dish that's served at the restaurant in the casino in Macau that Gwyneth Paltrow eats from, right?
Well, what they end on. He's doing something with the pig's mouth. I don't know what he's doing, but and he doesn't wash his hands. Then he goes and he shakes hands with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, they actually have the pig like in the kitchen ready to prepare it for like stuff, and then he comes out to shake hands with her. I always wonder, like, why is the chef shaking hands with her? Was she some sort of VIP?
Fuck if I know.
But anyway, yeah. So that's what traces it back, which I guess probably has some parallels with some stuff.
That was what this thing was. It was a combination of the swine flu and basically like coronavirus. Because it was a mixture of pigs and bats. So it was like this huge, petri dish. They say the coronavirus came from wet markets, and they say these wet markets are basically like petri dishes for new viruses, because you've got all these animals that may or may not have viruses.
I know. Whenever I see footage of those wet markets, it always made me nervous. I was like, that can't be sanitary.
They say they've got the chickens at the top, and the chickens are shitting on the like eels and stuff down here, and they eat every damn thing on Earth, and it's just maybe let's not eat bats.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster right there. This film, I will say, has a very good tagline. Do you know what the tagline for Contagion is?
What?
Nothing spreads like fear.
Very nice. Which is it can be applied to our current situation.
Exactly right. Like. Yes, things are serious and should be dead, but fear has already driven people to do all sorts of stupid, irrational things. As we said, we need to be calm and cooler heads prevail, follow the instructions, and it'll work out.
We're talking about 3% of the population. I mean, 3% of the world population is like what? I mean, what's the world population? Like 5-6 billion?
I think we're over 7 now.
Is that right? But I mean, it's like, it's not that many people in perspective,
Well, I don't know. 3% of 7 billion is pretty big.
I'm saying in perspective.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean.
Oh, yeah, we are. 7.
Don't want to turn it into a full numbers game, or otherwise it just sounds kind of callous, I guess.
Man, we've gone up like 2 million. In 15 years. No, 25 years, sorry.
2 billion? Yeah, I know. I'm not going to get on my soapbox here, but that's the thing that drives me nuts, is overpopulation.
It's not. It's China and India, man. It's not America.
Oh. Well, I think it's everywhere, but yeah, they're the worst. And I know in a few years, India is going to overtake China, which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, at least China tried something. They had that one-child policy.
Right.
Which I'm not saying was the greatest thing either. I'm not saying that's what should be done. I'm just saying they at least acknowledged it. Not saying that was the answer, but I don't know.
Oh, didn't it just – I mean, that's why their population's like 75% male now?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's like I've seen things all about that. There's like entire villages in China where there's like no women,
which has got to lead to many other problems in society.
Yeah, that's it. That can be its own pandemic someday. I mean, and there are movies and things like that. Actually, yes, eventually I will read Why the Last Man, which is the opposite. It's about all the male mammals dying off, except that one guy and his monkey. Supposed to be one of the best like comic series ever. I like Brian K. Vaughan. I will get to it, I swear. So that's one of the best and like most acclaimed comics ever that I've not read. Yeah. They talk about that being a show all the time too. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that's kind of funny about it is like, so all the men are dead. It's a world of women, and it's some things like I guess I just logistically hadn't thought through. But in that new landscape, Israel is the major military power because compared to all other countries, they've got way more women in the military period and women in like high up positions, like by far. So that's kind of interesting that like suddenly Israel overnight becomes the dominant military power in the world because of that.
Palestine's not happy with that.
They're not happy about anything. Israel and Palestine. Yeah, let's turn the show into that. You be Israel and I'll be Palestine. We're not touching that, people. I'm not touching that.
No, you yell.
Yeah. I have no solution for that. My solution I'll stick to the COVID-19 thing, which is just, social distancing, washing your hands, common sense. And while we're doing that, come on, people, let's be courteous and kind to each other. Let's not freak out.
We're living in a society here.
Exactly. I mean, and I especially feel for people like, all these places are closing, but then there's places like grocery stores that are staying open. Those are just ordinary people, and that's what they get to do. It's like, oh, well, at least they get to work and still make money. Yeah, but that means they also get to get exposed to tons of people, and including tons of people that are acting like jerks sometimes.
Exactly.
So I haven't seen any of that, but, we've all heard stories about people getting in lineups and getting mad and yelling at the cashiers. I'm like, you kidding me?
I mean, they're working for like minimum wage, while you're going home to self-quarantine, because they don't have a choice,
Mm-hmm. So the other reason I'm mad about some of this travel stuff. It all depends upon the timing of when you traveled, right? But like right now, the Prime Minister has put out a call for all Canadians that have been traveling abroad to return home. Oh, and guess what? For those that it's might be a problem for, they might get like $5,000 to help them. I don't like that one bit, because most of these people are people that can afford to travel in the first place, and they're on their leisure time, and now we're giving them money for that. If you're going to give out money, give it to some of the people that are like low income or like on assisted living or something. So that sort of thing pisses me off. I'll be fine. I'm not asking for money. I'll be fine. But I'm just saying, there's lots of people who benefit. But yeah, I'm so annoyed about so many of these people that some of them, it was beforehand. They didn't know they're already gone. But some of these people, they knew and they traveled anyway. There's even some people I personally know that did that, and it pisses me off.
I mean, that's a shitty thing to do anyway,
Yes, I realize it's disappointing. You saved up for this trip. You planned this trip. I understand. But guess what? Every fucking one of us is dealing with a disappointment right now. Every fucking one of us, is missing out on something. Something's canceled. Something that was going to be important to us isn't happening, I mean, and speaking of travel, I read an interesting article. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, like that. I can't remember the name of it, so people won't jump on me. But there's a specific name for that holy... what's the word? Pilgrimage people, Muslims are supposed to make once in a lifetime to Mecca and stuff. It's very expensive. It can be a lot of money. And right now there's all sorts of people lined up to do that, and that's going to be canceled, and that really fucks them up. And I feel really bad for them, but at the same time, got to do what you got to do.
Because they paid for it already.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like there was a kid from Canada that was trying to visit Disneyland. He's like, we got here all the way from Canada and Disneyland's closed.
He just takes a sip of his coffee. I saw it.
Yeah, you saw that. Yeah.
People were like, yeah, he was pretty chill. You gotta give him credit.
Considering.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have taken it that well at that age. I would have been like, why now? Why now?
Yeah. Just my luck.
Yeah. He just sort of says it, and then he just takes a sip of, I think it's a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Of course, I wasn't even drinking coffee when I was that young. I think that's another thing. I think we've raised a generation where really young kids drink coffee now.
It could have been hot chocolate or something, though.
It could have been. So maybe that's wrong. But I have noticed I've noticed a lot of tweens drinking coffee. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Not saying they shouldn't. I don't care. I'm just saying, I don't know. Seems like, kids have enough things that are bad for them. You don't need to throw coffee into the mix.
It stunts your growth, doesn't it? Caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that about everything, so who knows?
Yeah. But I just mean coffee, I don't know. At some point it was always sort of cool, but it's gotten so cool that kids see it as a very cool adult thing to do, which I guess is better than seeing smoking as a cool adult thing to do, but I don't know. Maybe we need some PSAs about that. Kids, you can drink coffee, but how about you wait a few years?
Like Justin Bieber, just put it down.
Save us, Justin. You're the Justin we need, not Trudeau. We need to be led by the other Justin.
The other Justin from Canada.
Yeah. We have our holy trinity of gourds, and we have our two annoying Justins.
Who would? He's almost too old. Who would be someone that can appeal to the kids these days?
Yeah, he's almost 30, isn't he?
Like Zac Efron and Justin Bieber, old.
I don't know.
Who's like early 20s now that kids are in love with.
The youngest person I've heard of lately is, I think she's an English singer. She might not be English, but her name is like Billie Eilish, or I don't know, but she's like 18 or something.
Billie Eilish, yeah.
Or I don't know. She just turned like 18. Never heard of her, but I'm thinking, wow, like, because she was trending about some bullshit thing. I looked up, it's like, wow, she's 17, and she's like a big deal. And now she's 18, I think.
Yeah, she's
which
American.
I guess means, okay, she's American, whatever. I think she's like a pop star, probably.
I don't even know what you'd call that music. I know I've heard one of her songs. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could definitely.
Everybody's jumping all over Vanessa Hudgens for something she said, but I don't know what she said. And what's trending there is like she's not a kid, like she's 31. That's what's trending. It's like she's 31. It's like I know she looks like some dumb teenager saying bullshit, but she's actually 31. People, she's pretty funny. I don't know what she said, but she said some stupid, insensitive thing about the situation, right?
That's about the virus thing.
Yeah.
Like fuck you! I just want my Starbucks.
It was probably something like that. Yeah.
Whatever. Just drive my car around already.
Don't. Yeah. She says like a whole bunch of times in the video. I know that. So there you go.
Hudgens.
Yeah, I don't know. Steven Soderbergh. I don't think he's a bad film. I just have a really complicated relationship with his work. He seems like a guy that goes out of his way to sound smart to me, and I just find it off-putting and annoying. I always feel like there's some sort of effort in there to be clever or smart or come across as like, I don't know. And it's really annoying to me. But as I said, I've always liked the first Ocean's 11.
You've seen Sex, Lies, and Video, right?
A long time ago. It was okay. I think that was really before he got his sort of style. Like a lot of early films by guys, and sometimes their first film doesn't really feel like their work. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't feel way different, but I think it feels a little different. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe I need to see it again. He's made one of the worst remakes of all time in Solaris, which is really saying something because there's so many bad remakes. I haven't seen anything he's done lately except for Logan Lucky. And again, I don't think Logan Lucky is some shit terrible movie. I just didn't care. I watched it and did not care. And that's almost how I felt about this movie, except for the fact that, yes, it has some parallels to what's going on now. And that's the main thing that kept me interested. I don't know. But if I'd watched the movie back in the day, like back when it was new, I don't think I would have liked it at all.
Yeah, I like a lot of his stuff. I think Logan Lucky was decent, but it was just like a bunch of like talented actors just hamming it up, you know? Like fucking James Bond's in there, whatever his name is.
Daniel Craig, yeah.
Playing like a crazy redneck.
Yeah. He does the Southern accent thing in what's it too?
Knives Out. That's what I was gonna say. I guess
that's a fun movie.
Practiced his Southern accent.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. I enjoyed Knives Out. They said there's gonna be a sequel. I don't know what that means. Like, would it be the same characters, or would it just be like a? I hope it's just like completely different setting and stuff.
How would you do an actual sequel to that?
Yeah, exactly. I just hope it's like, you know, just some other self-contained mystery type thing. That would be cool. It's not amazing, but it was definitely fun. And there's not enough movies like that in the last bunch of years either. So it'd be nice to see those sorts of movies make a bit of a comeback. I mean, they were never a big deal, those sort of mystery movies, but I don't know. I've always been a fan. Big Agatha Christie fan. And so it's nice seeing a movie that like pays homage to some of that stuff. Homage. You know, Traffic was a big deal when it came out. Like, I think Traffic.
An Oscar, I think.
Yeah. And so, let's see here. Oh, that's got Michael Douglas. That's another reason why I didn't like it. Michael Douglas.
Oh, it had Topher Grace in it, I think.
Oh, back when he was young, when he was like on That 70s Show.
Go for Trace.
Because it was 2000.
Don Cheadle in that one?
I don't know.
This is the one his wife gets like groped by the police officer.
I know it's the first time I ever heard who Benicio del Toro was. I didn't know who he was until that movie. And of course, Catherine Zeta-Jones looking excellent.
Uh,
It's a movie I need to watch again. It was another movie that I just kind of felt somewhat bored with.
That's another reason you don't like Michael Douglas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the reason why nobody likes Michael Douglas, because I don't know. Stuff like that baffles me, man.
Deflowered Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I need to watch a lot of his movies. Maybe I need to rewatch some of. I mean, I'm not going to rewatch Logan Lucky or Magic Mike, but I should rewatch Sex Lies and Videotape and Traffic. I think I should rewatch them, and Out of Sight too.
Figure out one of his other newer ones that I like quite a bit.
Out of Sight was like one of the first movies that Jennifer Lopez did.
I don't know that I've seen Out of Sight. Was it George Clooney in that?
Yeah,
maybe I have.
It's a pretty good movie. It's probably one of the movies, like, you know, I've talked about how annoyed I am by his dialogue and characters. It's probably where I actually like the dialogue and characters the most. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen it. My memory is fairly hazy. That's the one Don Cheadle is in. Okay, Don Cheadle's in Out of Sight. But what's funny is I wonder if, like, it makes sense to me now in retrospect. Like, watch it. Out of Sight is obviously the movie that convinced Soderbergh to cast Clooney as Danny Ocean, because he's playing a similar character in this movie, in that, like, he's some sort of like thief or criminal or something, and yeah, he's like a bank robber, but you know, he's very smooth and charming and likable, which is kind of the same thing he does in Ocean's 11.
Side Effects. That's one I was trying to think of. That one's pretty good.
I have not seen that, so
I haven't seen Behind the Candelabra either, which I've heard that's.
I've seen parts of that. That's the one about Liberace, right?
Michael Douglas is in that too, isn't he?
Probably.
Doesn't he play Liberace?
I don't know. Isn't Matt Damon in that?
Matt Damon.
I say Michael Douglas is in it and Matt Damon, but I don't remember who's who. I've seen a few scenes from it, but I haven't seen it.
Scott Bakula's in there. I definitely have to check it out. I've seen Haywire. That's that movie with the MMA girl.
I don't know that movie at all. That's 2011. So that's around the same time as Contagion. Oh yeah, Gina Carano.
Oh yeah, I couldn't think of her name.
And she was a great fighter back in her day. Ewan McGregor, Michael Douglas again, Antonio Banderas, Bill Paxton, Michael Fassbender. Interesting cast.
It's like the only thing that Michael Douglas has done has been Soderbergh movies.
Feels that way. You know, sometimes I don't like seeing certain actors together either. That's one of the things I don't like about Logan Lucky. I don't like seeing Adam Driver in the same scenes as what's his name?
Daniel Craig.
No, the other guy.
Shit, I forget who else is in it.
No, you know, the Magic Mike guy.
Oh, Channing Tatum.
Yeah, Channing Tatum. I didn't like seeing Channing Tatum and Adam Carolla in the same movie. It seemed odd. It seemed like two things that should not be together, and they were actually, I think, brothers in the movie. So I really didn't like that. So I just didn't particularly. So I don't have a problem with either actor. It just didn't seem right to see them together. So again, I know that's just a very specific, odd thing that's just personal, but it's true. It didn't seem right. It didn't seem right to me. I just think certain actors don't belong together. Happens only every once in a while.
Like Matt Damon and Michael
The Informant Douglas. Is supposed to be funny.
Is it?
That's Aaron Matt Damon.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with Aaron Brockovich, although, again, as usual, it's not exactly true.
Well, it's kind of on the nose, too. I don't know. It's okay.
But I just don't like that actress, Julia Roberts. So I wish it had been somebody else.
What if it had been?
The Informant actually is also based on a true story, although I have no idea how true it is because it involves like FBI stuff. So who knows?
What if it had been Julianne Moore and Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah, I think I like that a lot better. Like 1998 Julianne Moore. That seems right. That sounds right. Yeah, I've always liked Julianne Moore.
And yeah, it's one thing you got to hand to this guy. He doesn't stick to a genre.
Yeah, as I said, I'll give him credit that he's shown some versatility as far as that goes. Because like The Informant's a comedy. Solaris is terrible, so maybe I shouldn't use that.
I mean, whether or not you like them, I mean, they've been somewhat successful,
I don't. It's funny. Like I watched Solaris like months after knowing that my friend and roommate had gone to the movie and told me that like he was in like a not like a packed theater, but like a theater with quite a few people, and over the course of the movie, everybody left but him.
Wow, I've never been in a movie like that where that many people leave.
No, me neither. I've only been in the only movies I've been where people have walked out were the ones I walked out of. At least that I've noticed.
I've only walked out of one movie, and it was The Brotherhood of the Wolf, because my brother would not read subtitles.
That's funny. I walked out of a few. I walked out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning.
That's a good one.
But technically, I didn't pay to see it, so. See, I'd already seen one movie that I hated, and then I got. So I probably told the story before. This is what year is this? This is like 2005, 2006, and I'm dating the girlfriend that I had like the very intense relationship with, and the one that I lived with, the only girlfriend I ever lived with. And she and I had a fight, and I very dramatically stormed out. And I didn't know what I was going to do. So then I went to the movies, like, that'll eat up some time. And I saw Reign Over Me, Adam Sandler's piss-poor attempt at drama, one of his many. And I hated every second of the movie, but I watched it. And then I realized that I was still mad, and the movie hadn't put me in any better thing. So I walked around to see what was starting, and that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning was starting. So I walked into that without buying a ticket. And I watched 20 minutes of that, and I was like, fuck this, and I left. But that's not the only movie I've walked out of. I'm trying to think. I've walked out of at least one or two others, but that's the most recent, I think. And that's like 2005, maybe. I mean, I was in a bad mood, period, obviously, but man, I hate Reign Over Me. I hate it.
I've never heard of that movie.
Okay, so this is a couple years after everybody went nuts over Punch Drunk Love, which I also hate. I hate that movie, like gesturing hate. Hate it. Anyway, in this movie, Reign Over Me, I'm not sure if it's supposed to take place shortly after 2011 or shortly after the 9/11, or if it's supposed to be like 2005, a few years later. But the whole thing is like, it might be Don Cheadle. There's some black actor. I'm sorry. Okay, it is Don Cheadle. Good. I'm not racist. Black actor John Cheadle. I don't even know who he is, but he's a normal guy. He's got like a family, I think, and a job. And he's in New York, and he runs into Adam Sandler. And the idea is he and Adam Sandler knew each other like in college or something. They hadn't seen each other in years. And they start to reconnect. But as they reconnect, he realizes that Adam Sandler is manic and weird and disconnected and doesn't seem to have a job or anything. And then like over time, you find out that like Adam Sandler had like a wife and kids, and they died in 9/11. And he had like a weird, sort of psychotic break from it. And now he just sort of like drifts around and stuff. And I don't know. And it's all about how this guy's trying to like be friends with him because he feels a certain obligation to him, but it's hard because the guy's all, moody and shit. And the one good thing about the movie is that it has the PlayStation 2 game Shadows of the Colossus in it, which is a good game. And I don't know if this is because they're stupid or because of legal reasons, but even though and I can't be legal reasons because they show footage of the game. They show people playing it. But every time they ask, several times a character will say, what game is that? And the person says Shadows of the Colossus. But it's not Shadows with an S, it's Shadow. So I don't know if that bothered me, but that's not why I hated the movie. Anyway, it's just really terrible melodrama with Adam Sandler, acting all manic and stuff. There's a part where he tries to commit suicide by cop, and I don't know. I thought it was awful.
The most unbelievable thing in the movie is that Adam Sandler will be friends with a black guy.
Isn't he friends with Chris Tucker? Not Chris Tucker. Chris Rock? He's friends with Chris Rock? He and Chris Rock are friends. Because they're in that Grown Ups movie.
Oh, that's right.
He's the token black friend. He's got the token fat friend who died and got replaced by a worse one because originally it was supposed to be because I guess he came up with the script for
Chris Farley, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be Chris Farley. So he actually came up. What's weird is he came up with that script when he was too young to actually fit the role. So maybe it was supposed to sit on the back burner for a while. Because the whole point is you're supposed to be like settling pretty far into middle age and stuff. Like, and he wouldn't have been old enough to do it, like say in the late '90s. But yeah, and then they replaced him with Kevin James, one of the. Ugh. Kevin James makes me nauseous, man.
Yeah. Whenever I don't have a beard, they tell me I look like Kevin James.
Yeah, that's funny.
Let's see. He's married to Salma Hayek.
Sandler, yeah, he's married to her. He comments on that in the second movie. In the second one, there's a part where like his son likes some girl, and of course she's like the hottest girl in class, right? And he's just like, but why would she date with me? I mean, look at me. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, you're fugly, blah blah. But look at your mom. Look how hot she is. She's married to me. That doesn't make any sense. So he does actually comment on it, and of course it worked for his son too. His son woos this really attractive girl.
Every movie he's in too.
But yeah, we've had this conversation quite a few times about Adam Sandler and how repetitive and boring and formulaic his movies have gone, and how a big part of it is him either having a wife or a love interest that's like way younger and hotter than him. At least Salma Hayek was somewhat age appropriate.
Yeah.
As out of his league as she is.
And let's see. I can't remember who his wife was in Spanglish, but she was out of his league too.
Yeah, I know who it was. Isn't that the one that's real life wife of Ben Stiller? Maybe not. It's one of those blondes though. Maybe it's Christina Applegate. I don't know. They all get all mixed up in my mind. Again, I'm a sexist jerk mixing up women.
Tia Leone.
Oh, it's Tia Leone. I mean, she's okay now, but in the '90s, she was top 5 for me. But yeah. I have only seen parts of Spanglish, but I hate all his dramatic movies.
I hate Punch Drunk Love.
As I said, I respect funny people for its honesty, but it still doesn't make it a good watch.
I think that's probably the best one that I've seen.
Yeah, probably.
I guess we should go here. Uncut Gems.
I don't know. Maybe I'll try it again. Everything about that bothered me. I didn't get anywhere in that movie. I don't even make it 20 minutes, man. I mean, I get like sometimes it's just this is me rejecting the premise more than anything. It's like, no, I don't want to see a movie about this stuff. It's really what it is. It's not me saying this is a bad movie about bad, or it's badly written or badly. No, it's just like this is stuff and characters that I don't want to see at all, and I turned it off. He's just some annoying, shrill guy, and every 5 seconds people are mentioning that he's Jewish, and everybody's greedy. And I get that's the whole point, right? That's the point. It's a greedy world, and like it's not for me. It's not the type of thing I gravitate to. I'm a really open-minded person, and I watch all sorts of movies in all sorts of genres with all sorts of plots. But sometimes, every once in a while, I just have to slam the door on something. I slammed the door on. I was like, no. Don't care about this guy or what's going on or any of these people. It's all unpleasant and ugly. And I don't want any part of it. Like, there's a part where like an NBA player playing himself comes in and they talk about watches, and I wanted to vomit. I was like, is this what happens in the real life? Is this what NBA players do? This is what they want to do with their time and money? Like, fuck.
Pretty sure that's exactly what they do.
See, that makes me hate them. And I don't want to be one of those people that hates rich people. But I hate them. If that's what an overpaid, stupid millionaire athlete does with his time and money, I hate him. Because it is so useless and so pointless and so vain. I hate it.
I think they're extremely vain.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm a jerk, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I'm putting other athletes on pedestals, but yeah, I can't be interested. It's just not something. I don't know. I like humble people. I don't like show-offs, and I don't like people who brag or try to take credit for things and stuff like that. And it just goes against the grain for me. That's why it's so hard for me to like a lot of MMA fighters, because I at least understand a little more with MMA because it's not a team sport. But in basketball, it's a team sport, and you don't win stuff on your own. You have a team and people helping you win stuff, and so many of them act like they just do it all themselves.
Right.
And I realize in basketball, even though it is a team sport, having one dominant player can make more of a difference than something like hockey. Like if you have like a bunch of average guy, but one super awesome superstar, you can still win games that way in basketball if you get on the ball enough, really. Which is, I mean, Gretzky couldn't win any cups once he left Edmonton. Didn't matter how good he was. He couldn't drag a team to the cup by himself. Hockey just doesn't work that way. But in basketball, even though I think team is important, I don't think it's quite as important. Because sometimes when they have like Olympics and stuff, you'd have like Dirk Nowitzki and a bunch of nobodies, and they could still win some games. Right?
That's true. I know the Argentines are pretty good too.
Yeah.
They had Manu Ginobili.
That's
no, he was Italian. Somebody was
Argentine. That's a good name. I like that, Manu Ginobili.
But I mean, basketball and football are both like that because, like, if you've got like a defender that can't cover somebody, like they're going to run all over you. Like the quarterback can throw to somebody who can always get open.
Yeah, football is really dominated by one position, right? Like quarterback. But I mean, hockey works in a similar way. If you don't have goaltending, you don't have anything. That's for sure.
Right.
But I mean, I've never seen a goaltender outside maybe Patrick Waugh that acts like he's bigger or better than the team.
Like, who was it recently that the Zamboni driver came out and was goalie because?
Okay, and of course it had to happen against the Leafs because this is.
Oh, that's right.
So the way any NHL game works is you have a goaltender and a backup goaltender. The starting goaltender plays. The backup is dressed. He's in full equipment, and he sits on the bench. If something happens with the goaltender, if he gets injured, or if he's he's getting lit up, and the coach decides to pull him and change things up and get the other goalie in there, that happens. Every once in a while, something will happen where both are injured, and that's what happened in Carolina, playing Carolina. So it was a game in Toronto against Carolina. When that happens, an emergency backup has to be called. In that case, because it relies on the venue. So we're in Toronto. So technically, the guy who played for Carolina was provided by the Leafs. This is a guy that had only played, I think, as high as junior B. And I think he had like some sort of medical problem that really kept him from pursuing it any further anyway. And then, but he stayed in hockey, and he was the Zamboni driver, not even for the Leafs. He was the Zamboni driver for their AHL team, the Marlies, which was also in Toronto, luckily. And what he would do is sometimes he would work as like an extra goalie at Marlies practice. So sometimes if, they only had one goalie or something like that, he would get in the gear and guys would take shots at him and stuff like that. So he is the guy. He's 41 years old. He's never played professional hockey, but he is the designated emergency goalie. At this point, the Leafs are losing the game 3-1, which is already pretty bad. Then they put this guy in. Carolina's dominating. The Leafs can't even touch the puck. Carolina immediately scores again. It's now 4-1. And then the Leafs managed, it's hard, but they score on their first two shots on the guy. He's over 2. And it looks like, okay, now it's a 4-3. The Leafs can do this. And then the third period, they're completely smothered and shut down. They get nowhere near the net. They manage to take 8 more shots. He stops all of them. And that was the situation. And so again, I'm really happy for the guy. Like a crazy thing to happen. Carolina did it right too. They celebrated with him. They brought him back to Carolina with them so he could meet the public and stuff. I think he got to go on some talk shows. They did the whole bit where I think it was like Stephen Colbert's like, oh, I can't finish the monologue. And the guy comes in, he's like, oh, I'll finish for you. Sort of thing. I'm really happy for the guy. It's cool. But of course it has to come at the expense of the Leafs. So that's a new thing that people laugh about, how like this 41-year-old emergency goaltender beat them. Although of course he didn't beat them. The Carolina Hurricanes beat them, but still doesn't look bad. So that really is the situation though. And now they're saying like they're looking at maybe changing the rules, but I think it's fine. I don't have any problem with that. It seems like that if there's an emergency goalie, then there's nothing wrong with the home team providing it. Because guess what? He wasn't working for the home team. He tried his best for Carolina, and it worked out. Yes, the first 2 shots went in, but after his nerves settled, he stopped everything. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So I don't want them slamming the door on that possibility. In fact, I'm dying for it to happen again so that finally it happens to somebody besides the goddamn Leafs. I hope it happens as soon as possible. In some other place, the home team has to provide some emergency backup, and he beats them. I want that to happen, but it won't. But anyway.
How does that work? You're just like, who here can tend a goal? And, like the hot dog vendor's like, I can.
Well, as I said, he was the designated guy.
Oh, he was. Okay.
They didn't just pick, that's what I mean. He was a designated emergency backup goaltender. That's why he was at the game. Technically, although it's a 1 in a zillion shot of it ever happening. It's happened very few times in the NHL, but it has happened where somebody's got to come in. Now, if you go back far enough, it happened more, but that's because back in the old days, teams only had one goalie. But since about at least the 50s, teams have always had 2 goalies, and they've always had both dressed for a game.
I mean, couldn't the guy, if he's a Leafs fan, just throw on the game? I mean,
that's what I'm saying, right? Technically, he's part of the Leafs organization. So there you go. He tried his best and he won. He did the right thing. So why should anybody complain about it? He did what he was supposed to do. Yes, the first 2 shots went in, but you can imagine why they did. He's sure. In the venue, but then Carolina was amazing in front of him. He stopped 8 shots. They won. And I'm very happy for the guy. I'm just sad it had to happen at the expense of the Leafs, because here's, once again, they're the butt of the joke. And they're the butt of the joke so fucking often. If there's some embarrassing, humiliating way to lose a game, the Leafs find it. And here's a new one they found.
What if it had gone the other way and he just totally shit the bed? Wouldn't it be he threw the game? I mean,
no, I don't think anybody would say that. But what's weird to me is if it had gone the other way and he let in a bunch of goals and the Leafs won that game, it would make sense to me then if the board of governors and GMs said, let's change the rules. But they're saying let's change the rules after he won, and that's what I don't get. No, don't take that away from the guys. Don't say that'll be the last time it can ever happen.
I respect the hell out of somebody that can do that. It's an ethical thing to do. And you do what you're supposed to do, and you play as best as you can. Do your best. So that's. I think it says something about, a lot of things. It says something about the sport, about him.
You do your best for the team you play for.
Sounds like
anything else.
Rule that maybe needs to be changed anyway. But, I mean, how often does it come up where both get injured anyway?
It's been a long time since it happened. I was losing my mind watching it live.
This fucking guy.
But as soon as he went in and Carolina scored, right off the bat, they scored. I was like, nope. No, and then the third period is one of the worst things I've ever watched because the Leafs couldn't get near the net. They couldn't get near the net. Carolina, yes. He did stop 8 more shots, so technically, yes, if the net was empty. But honestly, watching it felt like Carolina could have played with no goalie and the Leafs would have lost. They couldn't get anywhere. They couldn't fucking move. It was like they were paralyzed. I think they were aware of the situation and how bad it looked in front of their fans and everything. And I just think they couldn't execute. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Feels like nothing matters. Season's gone. Playoffs most likely gone. I don't know.
Yeah, season's gone.
It's tough all over. I'm not trying to, we're all fans of things that are gone. So, but I'm so close to watching a Leaf score 50 goals again. Haven't seen it since 93, 94. I was 11 in 93, 94, man. I'm going to be 37. So, yeah, it would have been a big deal to see somebody since Dave Andreychuk score 50 goals as a Leaf. He was at 47. Oh, well. What are you going to do? Because, honestly, I don't really think the Leafs are going to do anything in playoffs. They're going to face the Lightning in the first round, probably manage to win a few games just to make it close and heartbreaking, but lose again and lose for the 4th time in a row in the first round. I had no doubt that that's what we were going towards, a 4th straight first-round loss. So I'm much more upset about the Q. That makes me sad. Especially considering, unlike a team like the Leafs that are rich as hell, the Eagles, the fact that they've been around since 1997 is almost a miracle. Especially considering how bad they've been for so many of those years. The people in my hometown have supported, including my parents, who were season tickets all these times. This is the first year since the fucking building was built and the Cape Breton Oilers were there in '88 that my parents didn't have season tickets. So, supported the hell of that team. So, a team like that can't afford to lose money, man. Taking out the whole sport aspect, I thought this was a team that was going to do something in the playoffs finally, and we won't have Egor Sokolov next year. He'll be gone. He's 3rd in Q scoring. He's 1st in goals. An Eagle never led the league in goals before. So exciting, gone. And again, I know, in big picture, it's not important. I'm just saying we all have our disappointments. And honestly, I'm more disappointed than the Leafs because of the situation. We all have things we're missing out on.
I think we should make it interesting. We should give all these guys coronavirus and let them play while they're having an outbreak,
and see how long it takes them to fall. Because that's what happened with that's what happened with the Spanish flu. That's what it came down to. Both teams had the virus, and they played 4 games, tied. What was weird, they technically played 5 games. They did like a do-over of one of the games or something really weird. And then they just called it because they were like, there's nobody left to play. They're all dead and dying. Well, actually, only one guy died. But I mean, they were all bedridden in the hospital. It's like, we literally have, and again, it's not like nowadays, because even, again, it wouldn't happen nowadays anyway, but there was no like farm club to draw from, right? This is 1918. There's no AHL team to fill things up. These are the players, and if they're gone, there's no one. So give them credit. They didn't call the season. They didn't call the playoffs. They called the final. They got to the goddamn final. They were tied.
Feeling kind of sick, Coach. Feeling kind of sick. Get your ass out there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of one of the games, like, guys had to be put on, like, drips or whatever that is, you know?
Really? Like IVs and stuff?
Yeah. Because they just exhausted themselves. Because they were in no condition to be doing something physical. They were sick. They shouldn't have been doing anything, you know? So, yeah, Joe Hall, who was older than the rest, he was 37. Yeah, he's the one that died.
Okay.
He's in the Hall of Fame, I think, pretty much for that effort. Because it's not like he was a spectacular player. But I think that earns you the Hall of Fame.
Dying for hockey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sacrificing your life. Man, that's crazy. I can't imagine doing anything. I've had the flu before, and I couldn't walk across the room, much less do anything athletic.
I mean, we talk about how tough players are nowadays, and yes, they're tough. They're super tough, and they do. I mean, it's got nothing on what they did 100 fucking years ago, man.
They didn't have pads and shit. Yeah, you can't compete with that.
Oh my god, and the rules and stuff. Like a guy like Sprague Cleghorn, isn't that a great name? Sprague Cleghorn. He's a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame defenseman. Played for Montreal in the late teens and the 20s. Won cups with them. Like he couldn't play a game in the 80s at all. Not because of the way the game is faster, bigger. It's because he'd be in jail for the things he did on ice. Like eyewitness accounts have him like smashing guys across the face with the blade of his stick, cross-checking guys as hard as he can until they stop moving. Like he was a goddamn criminal on skates. And yet somehow, like back then, they were like, okay, 2 minutes in the box or whatever, if they did anything, you know? Like
wow.
he intent to injure. Like that was like, his calling card was intent to injure. I don't know how he didn't kill anybody based on things I've read. There's no footage of him, there's not anything, but there's eyewitness accounts talking about horrible things he did.
So he's like the original goon.
I think so, yeah. I mean, people talk about Eddie Shore, who was also a Hall of Fame defenseman, just about a generation later, played in the end of the 20s, into the 30s, and he did almost kill somebody. He almost killed a Maple Leaf, actually. Why can't I think of his name? Number 6. Anyway, actually, that's why the first NHL All-Star game happened. It was to pay for that guy's medical bills after Shore crippled him. And you know what? Speaking of the great thing of the game, there's about a year later, they shook hands. Can you imagine shaking the hands of the thug that crippled you and then almost not just ended your career, but almost killed you? He could have died from that hit. And it was all for nothing, too. It was because he hit the wrong – it was all because of some – I don't remember if somebody hit Shore a way he didn't like or hit one of his teammates way he didn't like. In any case, it wasn't this guy who did it. Shore got the wrong guy in his blind rage. Bailey. It was Ace Bailey. There we go. Ace Bailey. For many years, the Leafs, until only a couple years ago, the Leafs, unlike other teams, didn't retire numbers. They would only just honor numbers, meaning you could still wear them. But 2 numbers were retired, and the first was number 6 for Ace Bailey. But yeah, he's the reason why they had the first All-Star game, was to pay for his medical bills.
Yeah, so all the proceeds went to help pay for his stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't just medical bills. I think it was to help. Well, I mean, he didn't have a job anymore. Yeah, so it's to help his family. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't know if there really would have been medical bills. No, I guess there wouldn't have been medical bills.
What are you supposed to do, man? God, that sucks. Shit, got to get a fucking day job now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Leafs organization might have given him some token position, something like that. I think I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read about it. Yeah, that was Ace Bailey. What's interesting is there was in the 70s, there was a guy named Garnet Bailey who played for the Leafs. He was just an ordinary player. Nobody would even remember him. but his nickname was because of the other Bailey. They called him Ace. He was Garnet Ace Bailey. He died in 9/11. He was a scout for the Leafs, and he died.
He died in the 9/11 attack?
Mm-hmm.
He was in the towers or something?
Plane. He was on one of the planes.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
He was on one of the planes. So, Ace Bailey, whether it's Garnet or the other one, it's kind of a tragic.
Wow.
I don't think anybody wants to wear number 6 for the Leafs.
So he wore that number too?
No, actually, Ron Ellis wore it actually in the 70s. That was the other thing. So only 5 and 6. 5 was by the guy who broke his leg, but still scored the cup-winning goal in 51. But anyway, 5 and 6 were the only numbers retired per year. So in the 70s, there were 2 retired numbers. But I think Bailey was alive, and he let Ron Ellis wear 6. So even though it was one of the only numbers that was retired, they still let Ron Ellis wear it. But anyway, a couple of years ago, when new management took over, they finally actually retired numbers, including some newer guys like Sundin's number and stuff like that, and Gilmore's. Makes me happy. Finally doing stuff right. Of course, then again, retiring numbers can get out of hand. I think so. If you play for the Montreal Canadiens, here's numbers you can't wear: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 19, 25, 29, 33 at least. There might even be a couple more. You can't wear those numbers if you play for Montreal. Whoever plays for Montreal in the last years have super high numbers usually.
That's crazy, yeah. So, like, don't guys, like, usually have their number? Like, then when they get traded or whatever, switch teams, they keep that number?
It depends on the player. Some players don't care at all. And some players, yeah, they really care. And some players care so much that they pay if there's a guy in the other team, they'll pay him something. So, yeah, if you come to it, especially if it's a star who has the number and he gets traded and the other guy is just an ordinary guy, usually the other guy will just give it up out of reverence. He'll be like, okay, you're the star. You can have the number. And usually the star, like, buys him like a Rolex or something like that. It's pretty fun. There was a pretty funny quip about one of the players that got traded to Edmonton this year, can't remember his name. It's like a Russian-sounding name, but he's actually Canadian. But anyway, his number is like 71, but he switched numbers when he got to Edmonton, even though nobody on the Oilers wears 71. It's because the mascot wore 71. He's like, I didn't want to like buy a Rolex for the mascot, so I just switched numbers.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Man.
Andreas Athanasiou, that's his name.
Whoa,
Canadian.
that's a name.
I know, Canadian though. But anyway, no, it all doesn't matter. Anyway, I guess we've rambled about all sorts of different stuff tonight, so we can finish up. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Soderbergh's a bad director. I'll just call him one of those directors that I'm not a fan of and I'm quite lukewarm on. He doesn't make necessarily bad movies, although I say Solaris is a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. Yes, it is. Watch the original Russian movie. But this movie's okay. It doesn't mean that much to me, but I get why we're watching it and we thought, we can draw some interest talking about it tonight. Plus, a lot of people are watching it if you go by the statistics and stuff. There's even on Wikipedia, they mention that there's renewed interest in the movie. And yes, there's a lot of parallels in the movie between what's happening, now. So it is interesting in that perspective. In fact, I told my parents, I said, you guys are looking for something to watch on Netflix. You should watch that. See what you think of it. Although I did warn my mother that there's a lot of characters and my dad will definitely not be able to keep track of them because even I had trouble. But anyway, so we'll see if I'll have to hear back if they watch it or not. But yeah, I mean, it's a well-made movie and everything, and it does a pretty good job of breaking down how these situations happen. We have some experience now, so we know. So the good news is what's happening now, as serious as it is not that bad and will not get that bad mostly. I mean, I can't say for 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to get that bad unless something really out of the blue happens. But until then, we just have to bear down at least for the next 3 weeks and hope it won't be longer. Because as far as I know, that's what it is. It's like everywhere's shut down for 3 weeks and then we'll go from there. If things are better or worse, we'll decide. So it's going to be tough. It's not as much as I bitched about hockey and stuff, I have to say, compared to most people, I'm in a better position than most people. I don't have to worry about like work as far as that goes. It doesn't change my work situation. And I don't know, the most social thing I did was the program at the library. So I'll miss that, but that was only a once a week thing.
Right.
So it doesn't change my life a lot from that perspective. It changes it from an entertainment perspective, but it doesn't change it. But I mean, I lead a pretty solitary life a lot. I don't know. it's funny. I was thinking about maybe registering on a dating site again sometime soon. I guess that's on the back burner for a while. Nobody wants to go meeting strangers and kissing them and etc. So
Yeah.
I put that off till further notice too. So yeah, so I, there's not people I really see every day or anything anyway. So I've just been rededicating myself to like the things I like anyway, like movies and books and video games, especially video games. And I'm really excited about video games coming out in April. So hopefully things are okay in April that I can at least go pick up the goddamn game. Don't tell me I can't pick it up. Please let me pick up the Final Fantasy VII Remake that I pre-ordered in fucking August. I will do whatever it takes to get it. Wow. If I had to wear a hazmat suit, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, I'll get you some Forsythia and stay
That'll
prepared.
perk me right up.
But yeah, I pretty much said my thoughts earlier in the video. I think it's a pretty decent movie.
Yeah.
I like, the way the story's told. I like the way it jumps around and, even jumps around in time. Yeah, I like it a lot.
It does a good job of like covering all the bases, things that happen. Because, like the way that people react and things, right. The way things spread and then the way people panic and reactions and all that. Like, that's
pretty real.
And then, in the Jude Law character, an opportunist, spreading disinformation to help himself. Oh, we've seen that too. So, it really does cover the bases of the different, reactions different people are going to have to this kind of situation. And it's very much what we're living right now. So, but at the end of the day, we just have to, again, just not overreact, stay calm, not panic, and use our common sense for these things like the washing the hands and social distancing and things like that. I don't think it's that hard. I know it's easier for me than some people. I'm not going to say, oh, it's so easy for you. And I realize a lot of people are in tough positions as far as jobs go and things. But I mean, the thing is, everybody is. So we are all in this together one way or another.
Yep. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. We'll be back next week with hopefully something not coronavirus related. But we never know. We may be in a little worse situation.
There's a movie called Quarantine. We could watch that.
We may both have the virus next week, so I don't know.
Yeah. Is Quarantine the American remake of the Spanish movie? What is it called?
Wreck.
Oh, yeah, Wreck. Yeah, I often bring up Wreck because people know that I really hate a lot of found footage movies, but I think Wreck is one of the really good ones. I really like Wreck.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, so I never saw the remake, but the remake is called Quarantine, so maybe we'll have to do that. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. But hopefully not. I mean, yeah, I don't expect too much to change the next week. It'll be kind of more of the same for most of us. It'll be more of this wait and see type thing, and everything will still be shut down, that's for sure. So just take it one day at a time, I suppose. But yeah, hopefully. But yeah, we'll be back next week because the one thing that is good about this is what we do is we don't have to shut down.
Right.
Because we're in a good position as far as this goes. I mean, we can keep doing this. Jay and I do this from the safety of our own bunkers or homes. We don't even have to be in the same room to do it. In fact, Jay and I have never been in the same room, although I hope someday we will be. But, for now, yeah. So that's one good thing about the technology and this format we're working on is you can watch from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere, and we can do it without having to go anywhere, and we're not exposed or exposing anybody or anything like that. So we expect this show to continue. And so it's nice to be back in the Tuesday slot again. It's been a while, probably.
Yeah.
Because of the way things are gone. So we'll go for that next time. But I'm sure if something came up on Tuesday, we'll still get something in next week, especially with the way things are. I'm sure we can fit something in for next week. So that's what we'll shoot for. Yeah. I don't know. Could be a Western. Might not be. I don't know. It's kind of where my head's at lately, but could be anything. So keep eyes peeled on Twitter. We didn't really have time to announce this one, but we hope to probably announce the next one. So thanks a lot for being with us, guys. We really appreciate it. So stay healthy and stay safe best you can. We're thinking about you. We really appreciate anybody that watches this show, anybody that comments and takes the time. It means a lot to us. So thanks a lot, guys. Peace out. See you next time. Oh, I was trying to wave, but I'm not on camera. There we go. Bye.